Okay, good evening. Everybody, hi. This is the March 7th meeting of the Development and Government Relations Committee, Subcommittee of City Council. I'm the chairman. With me is Councilor Roman, Councilor Tallman, Councilor McGivern, Councilor Sullivan. And so I'd love to get a motion, if I could, please, for the prior meeting minutes.
Motion to approve prior meeting minutes?
Second.
Okay, under discussion, these are from February 1st and February 29th meetings. I reviewed them. I thought Ryan did a great job with them. Any comments or questions from the committee? Can I get a motion, please?
Motion to accept the minutes is read. Second, and written.
On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Can't do anything without my glasses. How do I start a meeting without my glasses, Nelson?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I'll remember.
Okay. Wait a minute a second. Okay. All right. Perhaps a motion and take 2 and 3 as a package might be in order.
Motion to take up item number 2 and 3 as a package, Mr. Chairman?
Second.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, if I could,
Councilor McGivern.
items 2 and 3, I have a conflict after consulting with our city solicitor and the Ethics Commission. I'll be excusing myself from discussion, deliberations, and any votes. I am an employee of the Massachusetts Probation Department.
Okay, Counselor. So we'll just, Ryan will note that in the meeting minutes. Counselor McGivern leaves the room at 10 after 6. On the, so the order's before us. On the motion, take them up. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so I should say suspend the rules and take them up. Okay. All right, so there are 2 orders. I'm just going to summarize them as quick as I can here. They basically say the same thing. The City Council, in accord with 30B and the Holy Procurement Ordinance, vote to declare surplus and available for disposition approximately 1,750 square feet of office space in the City Hall Annex. Second is a City Council, in accord with 30B and the Procurement Ordinance, authorize the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Commonwealth's Office of the Commissioner of Probation for the use of approximately 1,750 square feet of office space located in the City Hall Annex basement, et cetera, et cetera. So we have we have our city solicitor with us, so Kara, why don't you come join with? And then I believe we have our Veterans Services Director, Mr. Mahoney, so come join with. I know we have some distinguished guests, but you can just kind of hang back for a second, and we'll hear from, if we do want to ask you a question, there's a microphone right here. It's probably turned off, but there's a little switch on top. You can just click it upwards. So Carol, we have an MOU, which I reviewed over the weekend.
Okay.
Looks pretty good, but why don't you just give us a quick overview of the MOU, and then Mr. Mahoney, why don't you just tell us, after Ms. Cunha speaks, Mrs. Cunha, why don't you just give us a Reader's Digest version of the Veterans Court, okay? All right, so.
Sure, so I will leave it to the others to explain a little bit more about the specific uses, but the MOU is for the probation department to use the space in the annex that was formerly used by the Hampden County Sheriffs a number of years ago in the basement. And basically, the space is already set up, essentially. There's not a lot of work that needs to be done other than, phones and computers, which probation will take care of. It's going to be a 3-year agreement for them to use the space. The basics are essentially there's no rent being paid, but the probation department will be responsible for any separately metered utilities, which I believe is the electrical. They'll be responsible for any of the costs of phones, computers, furnishing, all of those kinds of things. And the city will be responsible for the snow removal on the outside, keeping the interior in good repair, basic maintenance of carpets and heating, all the systems in the building. We did include a provision that in the event maintenance is needed, probation's responsible for notifying the city, and any extraordinary repairs may be subject to an appropriation from the city council, just kind of recognizing obviously that the DPW has a very tight budget to work with for maintenance. There's, standard indemnification between the parties. As I said, it's for 3 years and either party can terminate it with 30 days notice. And I think that's
And at the end of
about it.
3 years, what happens?
We could potentially renew the agreement or amend it. Either side could decide they don't want to continue using the space, so. Or
Okay,
it could
so
be-
the leaseholder doesn't have a right to continue it, correct?
Remains in effect for 3 calendar years, is renewable upon the written agreement of the parties. Either party can terminate it upon 30 days written notice.
And this commences when?
It's effective upon signing. I don't know if I leave it to the probation to address when they actually do plan on moving in, and obviously that could be amended.
But somebody from probation's here,
Yes.
correct? Okay, so we can, so that'll be a question we'll ask. Okay, and Kara, anything else?
No, I think that's it. There's a floor plan that's attached as the last page.
Oh, it's beautiful. Any questions from the committee for Attorney Cunha? Council Sullivan?
You said 0 rent?
Correct.
What is the reason for that?
I think it's based on the probation department budget. We had initially proposed this some time ago, and they didn't necessarily have the funding together. It's kind of a goodwill partnership between the city and probation to use the space for the new programs that I think they're gonna talk a little bit more about. And right now, the space is it's just sitting vacant. They'll pay for the separate electricity.
Okay, but now we've got some responsibilities to maintain other areas of the building right now that aren't being used?
And it's not being used. We would still have to maintain it.
Well, I understand about the snow removal stuff, but now they're talking about carpets and all this kind of stuff too. So it's gonna be an additional expense?
Well, I believe they are responsible for providing the basic janitorial services. It's just if there was any routine maintenance, if a ceiling tile fell, if air conditioning, heating, which we would be responsible for maintaining anyways.
Councilor Garcia? Councilor Roman, sorry, Nelson, was on the line.
It's okay. Thank you, Kara, for being here, and maybe you can answer as well, Commissioner. As we know, City Hall Annex the overall state of the building isn't the best. I'm excited for the use of the basement. I'm just wondering, has the building department or the building inspector actually checked out the physical conditions of the basement? I know this is sitting idly, but I'm just concerned. Again, we're talking with the council president, going out to bid, trying to fix the physical condition, and you're in annexed, is deplorable. What is the condition of the basement? I didn't see that in any of the documents. Like, how is it? Has anyone inspected it? How's it looking? That's just my top concern.
Sure. Probably the best person to answer that. I did work on this, and it has been reviewed by Bill Fuquay, who's obviously the superintendent responsible for the city building. So, and perhaps the probation folks can address it if they've actually been in the space. But my understanding was basically when the probation department left, they just left it as is with the work that they had previously done to. When this was leased by probation a number of years ago, they put in substantial amounts of money to transform it into the space that it is. And so since then, it was just been left like that. Like I said, I worked with Bill. He reviewed this. He didn't bring any concerns to my attention that, would prohibit them from moving in, so.
Thank you.
That's it? Okay, all set. Jim, do you want to just give us a little quick overview of what this court's about, if you want to?
This is the
Just
first,
kind of bring the mic up to you, if you would, please.
yeah, this is the first Veterans Court that's being established in Western Mass. There are some already established and running in the eastern part of the state. So it's a pretty exciting project, I think. It gives an alternative to certain veterans in certain categories. It's an alternative program rather than be incarcerated with a very strict probation, mentoring kind of components to it. So it's a pretty exciting, I mean, all the veterans groups in Holyoke and in the general area are pretty enthusiastic about it coming into Holyoke.
Why is that?
Why? Because oftentimes sending someone directly into incarceration can sometimes make the matters worse and also not address the underlying causes of what is really going on with an individual. And when I say a strict probation period, I believe it runs for about 18 months with weekly meetings. It's much stricter than I think a normal probation program is. And from what I've heard from other people have this program up and running, they are getting excellent results from it.
And so, I don't know, maybe I should ask the guest, but maybe, because Holyoke District Court, the jurisdiction is pretty much Holyoke, right? So where would we seeing, would we seeing veterans coming from outside of Holyoke? Is that the thinking, Jim? Or do
Yes.
Okay. So Springfield or all of Western Mass, or how's it hard to say? Or how?
I would defer
To them, okay,
the
yeah, we'll
experts.
ask them, yeah. Well, I'd be curious as to that one. Okay, and there is a need for it because why?
It's an alternative program to help veterans get back into productive society as far as education, training, employment, and addressing their underlying needs of most of which I believe would probably be TBI issues and PTSD issues, along with addictions, obviously.
Okay, all right, so Kara, did you want to introduce our guests here, or how do you, so from probation, is it Sean? Sean from probation?
Yes, Chief Probation Officer.
Okay, so, yeah, why don't you just introduce yourself and your title and just,
Sure. I'm Sean McBride. I'm the Chief Probation Officer in the Holyoke District Court.
okay. All right, so Sean, what are we doing here with why do we need a Veterans Court?
Sure. So the Veterans Treatment Court located here in Holyoke was established to help support veterans coming back from their service of our country who have, through issues such as post-traumatic stress, substance abuse, traumatic brain injury, oftentimes find themselves on the wrong side of the law. Bless you. The goal of the Veterans Treatment Court is to connect these veterans with services, bring them back with some dignity to the place in their community where they were previous to their service to the country. We connect them with services with the VA, with our service providers through Soldier On for those that are not VA eligible. We connect folks with therapists, with substance abuse testing, frequent contact with the probation department. We spend a lot of time in their community reconnecting them with the services that are available in their own community. But a lot of that begins here in Holyoke for us with the work that we do through the Veterans Court, through our partners, with and the commitment that we have from the Holyoke Veterans Agent, from the VA, and from Soldier On.
So the veterans will be coming from, besides Holyoke, where else?
The catchment area is Hampshire, Franklin, and Hampden County.
And how often do we anticipate that court being open? A daily basis, or once a month, or?
So the court meets weekly on Wednesdays. For the majority of the veterans that are from other areas, our desire is to connect them back in their communities. But being able to provide them and connect them with those services early on is crucial to ensure their stability and their success.
Okay, now when would this 3-year contract commence?
We would hope our official opening for the Veterans Treatment Court, although we've been in operation since November 4th and have seen some great levels of success so far, our official opening is scheduled for May 20th, and we would hope that the opening of this site would coincide with that opening.
Okay, so this contract basically run from May of 2016 to 17 to May 2019. Okay. Any other questions for Ms. McBride from the committee? Ms. McBride, do you want to introduce anybody else? Councilor Rahman, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mr. McBride, thank you so much again for being here. I just wanted to follow up on my question with Kira. You know, we've all seen City Hall Annex. It needs a lot of work and repair. What's the physical state of the basement? What does it look like? Because, again, we as the councilors and as the city are going to be responsible if there's any extenuating repairs or services that might need to be done. What is the physical condition currently of the basement? I see the layout. I'm happy, but I just wanted to hear that from you for the taxpayers.
I can tell you that the last time that I was in the site, which was probably with Bill from DPW, approximately 6 months ago, so it was in fine physical shape. I would just like to introduce Mike Coelho, our Deputy Commissioner of Probation, if you have any further questions concerning the memorandum or the site.
Mike, do you want to make a comment? Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Why don't you just-
I really can't add a whole lot more than what
So
Sean
Mike,
and the
just
folks here.
if I could just spell your last name for me.
Sure, it's Mike Coelho, Coelho, and I'm the Deputy Commissioner for programs for the Massachusetts Probation Service. So in that role, I oversee specialty court development, community correction centers, research and data, and interstate compact. And so just to add to what Sean was saying, and what the folks were saying earlier, one of the reasons that this work is ongoing or growing within the trial court is because of dramatic drops in recidivism and the remarkable changes and transformation in people's behavior. So in general, folks that sort of go through this or don't go through this struggle to kick whatever is driving their behavior. Usually it's a substance abuse, and especially with veterans, it's complicated by, you know, PTSD and other challenges. And so what the folks doing here in Holyoke, led by Sean and Judge McLeod and Judge Walsh and a lot of other folks, is they're wrapping more services, but with the sort of the stick of probation. So listen, we want to help you get back on track. We want to give you the services you need, the support you need, using peer specialists and mentors, real connection to community-based services within the area and within the region. But you know, if you're not going to do this right, you know, we'll put you back on your original track. So it seemed to be very effective. The one in Norfolk County, which has been running for 3 years, dramatic drops in recidivism and new arrests, and people are graduating and contributing again to their communities. You know, working and basically being returned to their families. It's very impressive work. And Holyoke was a site that, because of the strong collaborations here and the need in Holyoke in the area, we thought it would be a great place to put a veterans court.
Thanks, Mike. Any questions for Mr. Coelho from the committee? No? Your Honors, did you want to speak for a minute, or?
Come up as a team. We're intimidated by the group, so. I'm Maureen Walsh. I'm the presiding justice of the Holyoke District Court.
And I'm Laurie McLeod, and I've been the presiding justice of the Veterans Treatment Court since it started in November. So one of the things that I wanted to say to you gentlemen is that we've been running it since November, so it's 4 months now. There's 11 participants, and we've seen some really tremendous successes already. And we started seeing them very early in the program, where people came who initially, when they first came to court, they didn't want to really be in court, and within a few weeks they really found a home there in a way that because each week they address me separately in court, and I address them and see how their week's been going, and I know what they've been doing during the week, because they either report or the probation officer reports to me how they've been doing, and if their screens have been negative, if they've been going to therapy, if they've been getting to their appointments and everything. So I wanted to extend an invitation to any of you. We meet on every Wednesday at 2:30. Sometimes we start about 5 or 10 minutes late because there's so much work for us to do in preparation to get the court going. But even the people who even when we start late, it's interesting because all the veteran participants are out in the hall talking to each other. And I understand, although we're behind the scenes, that it's to be a fly on the wall and to hear these men and women talking about how well they're doing now compared to when they were under arrest.
So Judge McLeod, if I could, just what kind of, so they're brought into the court system for a reason.
They've committed, I'm sorry, I didn't, go ahead.
Yes, but they've committed what level of offense, I suppose?
Well, it's misdemeanors and felonies that are within the jurisdiction of the district court, so these are cases that are not being indicted, and they are cases that the district attorneys, both Hampden County and the Northwestern District for Hampshire and Franklin have determined that the district attorneys are willing to make a recommendation to the defendant, the criminal defendant, that they participate in the Veterans Treatment Court. And they do that in conjunction with speaking to a victim, if there's a victim of the crime, and really with having a good awareness of the perhaps the reasons why the crime was committed. And we're not taking people who are committing disorderly conducts or shoplifting for, this is a lot of attention that we're giving to them, a lot of effort from the trial court and everybody involved. So these are people, otherwise they would be looking at a jail sentence. And that's what Chief McBride said, I know. But so rather than have someone with traumatic brain injury or PTSD going to jail, you can imagine that's one of the worst places for them to be, and not receiving the level of treatment that we're willing to extend to them in the community.
And would you always preside?
I've been presiding so far, but I know my distinguished colleague would also preside, and she's been going through, we've been going through a lot of trainings and, becoming more and more aware and educated in terms of veterans issues.
Okay, thank you, Judge McCullough. Judge Walsh, did you
welcome.
want to add something?
I just wanna
Just got to step in front of the mic.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
No problem. I just want to thank each and every one of you for even considering this. This is something that we're really honored to take part of. And so, along with the welcome any Wednesday afternoon, and the thank you for just opening up to this idea that Holyoke could serve to be a better place for those who are in need, that are veterans who have served us, is just to let you know that we're planning on May 20th, and to put in your calendars, hopefully, the grand opening with our friends here, and it will be at the War Memorial, and we'll extend out formal invitations. But this is something that is unusual in the trial court. It's bringing a different type of energy. The mentoring key to this program is just phenomenal. Something in an area that perhaps the judge really can't reach, but the mentor with that relationship and that bridge, because the individuals, for the most part, who are veterans, are mentors, so they know kind of what makes individuals tick and to help them. It's phenomenal to watch. It's very different, and we're just appreciative of having a different way to address some issues that affect all of us in our community.
Any committee members want to ask a question of either one of the judges?
Yep.
Council Sullivan?
So we're bringing in people from 3 different counties as well, each that has its own district court. Why was Holyoke chosen to host it?
Well, I'd like to think, and I think it was a competitive process, Holyoke put in the application because it recognized that this was an underserved population and a group of individuals that I think rightly deserve additional resources and help if we can. On top of that, I think that there were some very strong connections with the police department, with Soldier On. DA Sullivan, DA Gallooni have been 100% behind it, but it's a community, frankly, that has embraced this concept of us reaching out to veterans and us helping veterans, that, for me, I think made it worthwhile because it's an additional work for all of us, and that's fine, that's great. The work that's being done on the ground by the volunteers, I think, is what made the difference for us being the selected site in Western Massachusetts.
So I'm still a little lost. Why Holyoke in particular, not Hampshire District Court or?
Well, Holyoke has, as we know, the Soldiers' Home. We've got the terrific resources with the folks at the War Memorial. We have local and state groups that are willing to help. Location-wise, it's an easy ride to Northampton. Soldier On was happy to come here to help out when needed. The probation department is led by a strong chief. We have a terrific relationship with the police department, who couldn't be more accommodating to our needs and our requests. And so it seemed like those pieces of, in the areas that would be needed to come together, and anything else that you can think of, seemed to be the right time and the right place for Holyoke.
Why wouldn't they host it right at the VA hospital in Northampton? Right, right where the services are.
That was a potential site, and we did talk about that. I think in part because I'm the presiding justice of the Holyoke District Court, and I take great pride in that.
Okay,
Is that I
that's-
wanted it here.
Got a little power, Mike. Okay, so, Council Tallman?
Yeah, I think this is it's an amazing program. Myself being a veteran and seeing the work that the Veterans Agent has done in this community and in reaching out to help others, I think this is important to help the veterans coming back and veterans that are here that are struggling with different issues, substance abuse issues and other issues, that this will be a point where people can get treatment, get help, and not go back in that revolving door of going back in and out of jail. You know, it sounds like it's a great program, and it seems that the 4 months you've been already working, it's been working well. And from we hear from Norfolk, the 3 years it's been there, it's nothing but good things. And I think this is something that maybe will catch on throughout the country. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So on, all set? Okay. Thank you, Your Honors. Appreciate that. Okay. Committee all set? Okay, does somebody want to make a motion?
Chairman, I make a motion to approve items number 2 and 3 and recommend that they be adopted by the full council.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? I'll just make a quick comment that I filed these orders on behalf of, well, actually, was I? I think it's on behalf of several entities, and not really knowing where this is going to wind up. It took a little while to get here, but looks like they've got things organized pretty well. I think this is just another, while, you know, if there was going to be a rent, it was going to be nominal at best. So I don't think the rent's a real factor. I think this is just another great example of, if we do pass this, of the city of Holyoke, again, you know, to those who know the city, know it's a welcoming city and a helpful city to everyone, all stripes. And did you get the pun, Ms. Stone? Okay. So I appreciate everyone's input. Attorney Cunha, Jim Mahoney. Jim always does nice work for us. So we're humbled to have the two judges here, and as well as the officials from probation. So I think with that, we have a motion in front of us. All in favor of adopting, of approving these orders, adopting a motion approving the orders?
Aye.
Okay, opposed, none? Okay, we'll pass it for nothing. Just what we do here is, for the public to know, we recommend at this level, and then we will present it to the full city council at our next full meeting, which is Tuesday, March 15th. And at that point, we will take this back up again, and the rest of us will see that we've recommended it. But there's no final answer until it's approved by the city council, okay? All right, thank you.
Would you like us here for that meeting on the 15th? Would there be?
It's a public meeting. You're always welcome to a public meeting.
Oh, I know, but
You know, but so, but if you want to be here, great. I wouldn't say it's probably 100% necessary, if you want my opinion, but you're welcome to come and make a comment if you so choose.
okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, just,
Can I be excused for 30 seconds here?
yeah, go ahead. Just,
Want me to go get Joe?
yeah, we'll just take a 2-minute recess. Okay, Alicia, why don't you come in just like sort of expedite the thing, make yourself at home, and once everybody comes back. It's going. Okay, we now have a quorum again.
I think I got it all right. Got the one that you sent in the mail? Same one, okay.
Quorums, I see Counselor Oman.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Okay, so Ryan will note, just for the minutes, that Counselor McGivern's back. It's now 6:40. If I could just get a motion to take up item 4, please.
I take up item 4 on the agenda tonight.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Community Development Block Grant. We have with us the, Alicia, what's your title? Administrator. Okay, okay. We have with us Alicia Zeller, Administrator of CDBG, who does all the work behind the scenes on this, compiling all sorts of numbers and doing all sorts of reports. And so, Alicia, kind of traditionally, you kind of walk us through the process here to sort of start it out. And then, so I'm going to, unless any councilors have any opening questions for Alicia, I was going to sort of let Alicia take it away. So we're all good with that?
Yes.
Okay. So Alicia, floor is yours.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for having me tonight. It's a pleasure to be with you all. I don't get to see you as much as I used to when I was across the hall with the Conservation Commission, so it's nice to be here. Tonight I'm here to work with you to develop your recommendations for the Community Development Block Grant funding for FY 2016. It's the funding that HUD will release on or about July 1st, 2016 to the City of Holyoke. We solicited proposals back in December, January. Those proposals were all included in our development book, all of those eligible proposals, which you by now have probably taken a look at. We have been working with our various reviewing committees over the past few weeks to develop their individual set of recommendations. Once your recommendations are made tonight, they'll be forwarded to the full council for consideration. And then on March 16th, we'll open a 30-day comment period and solicit community comment on the recommendations to date. The mayor will take those recommendations into account and issue his final recommendations the last week of April. And we need to have our final plan into HUD sometime in mid-May with how we would expend the funds starting on July 1st. So this year, we estimate in the non-public service proposal category that there'll be approximately $714,452 for expenditures. In the public service category, approximately $164,800. And in the admin line item, the maximum available will be $219,000. And we've only requested $215,000 in that line item. Both the public services and the administrative line items are regulatorily capped by HUD, and so they are capped at 15% for our public services and 20% for admin. The admin costs cover all of the staff salaries as well as all of the departmental expenses. We do not receive any funding through the City of Holyoke municipal budget. We are entirely funded by HUD. And so as HUD's funding comes through, so too do our administrative expenses rise and fall. You'll remember a few years ago, the staff in the office was probably close to 8 or 9 folks. We are now down to 3 full-time folks. We've got a financial person, a bookkeeper, we've got an office manager who's handling all of our compliance, and myself. So we're now at 3 full-time positions. So what I've distributed tonight and you received in the mail are the recommendations to date from the OCD staff. That's myself and my 2 staff members generated those. The CAC is the Citizens Advisory Council. Councilor Sullivan was your representative to those meetings. We met for 2 nights, close to 10 hours, I would say, of discussion and review. And you'll see the mayor's preliminary recommendations.
Who serves on the CAC?
So we have Councilor Mike Sullivan, Connie Teague, Francis Wilson, Albert Bowler,
Abdullah, and I'm gonna get his last name wrong, but Abdullah Rabalka, and Nancy Gentile, and Ruth Roman.
So is that about eight people?
Albert Bowler?
Albert Bowler, yep.
Okay, so it's about 8 overall? Did I count
It
that right?
is.
Okay, and all Holyoke residents?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And how do they get on the, so I know how Counselor Sullivan gets on, we appoint them from our end, but there's, the council president appoints them. How do the other 7 get on?
They're chosen by the mayor. We solicit for applicants. We put a notice out in the community asking if folks would be interested, and they submit their resume or a letter of request to the mayor, and then he makes the selections. And that's actually in accordance with our citizens participation plan that was approved by HUD a number of years ago.
Citizens?
Participation plan.
Okay, and then why don't you tell us, because I sometimes get a little forgetful about this, so, we have OCD's recommendation, then we have the Citizens Advisory Committee's recommendation, then we have the mayor's recommendations, and then, of course, this committee and the full council, and then once the full council approves it, is that the end of the story, Alicia?
No, once the full council makes its recommendations, we open a 30-day public comment period. This year, we anticipate opening that 30-day comment period on March 16th. That 30-day comment period will run. We'll solicit comments from the public, from agencies, from elected officials about the recommendations to date. And then you'll see that final column, the award. The mayor takes into account all the comments that have been made, the recommendations throughout the process, and then he issues the final recommendations in that last column. And through our citizen participation plan, the mayor does have the final say.
Okay, so is there anything that we do that the mayor can just override at will? Is that how that works?
He can override your entire recommendations.
Is there anything he can't override? So, for example, if, let's just doesn't matter, I don't want to pick out one, but just,
I can give you an example.
Okay.
He cannot override the 15% and 20% caps that HUD has imposed. So if the mayor wanted to fund the public services at a level higher than 164, he by statute could not do that. That would not be allowed by HUD. The same thing with the administrative. If the city wanted to exceed the 20% admin cap, that is not allowed by HUD either.
okay, but any line item in here, the mayor can override?
Absolutely.
Okay, it's just been my experience that the mayor's been pretty good about when pretty much approving what the city council recommends. Now, I haven't heard anything from the mayor directly on this, on any issue. Maybe other councilors have. So all I can go on is by the printed page. Now, why don't you also walk us through the process, Alicia, about our role? So if we wanted to cut something, it has to stay within the non-public, or we can't overlap. Why don't you just walk us through that part?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So your first 2 pages are your non-public service proposals. And what we've done, just for ease of comparison and allocation, is we've grouped them into categories as allowed by HUD. So we have acquisition, clearance and demolition, code enforcement, housing, public facilities, infrastructure, and economic development activities. So out of all of those projects that are proposed on those first 2 pages, you have $714,452 that you can allocate. What I've done is I have it set up as an active Excel spreadsheet here on my pad, and so as you give me numbers, I can drop them in and then be able to tell you exactly where you're at, so we're not trying to go back and forth so much with the calculator and the pencil. And then as you look, so all of these categories are basically competing against each other. So the Conservation Commission is competing against the Board of Health, is competing against revitalized CDC, so to speak. And then on the next page, on the 3rd page, startup public services. And again, we've grouped them by category just for ease of review. It's also a way for us to ensure that we've captured applications from specific groups. So here you'll see we have youth, elderly handicap, employment education, homeless and domestic violence, and then general and other services. All of those categories are competing for $164,800. I don't want to add to your confusion, but in terms of full disclosure, you don't have to fund public services at $164,800. You can actually reduce that and move some of that money to the front pages. It has never happened in the history of Holyoke. We have always funded our public services at the 15%, and that's what we've indicated here. But if you said to me, well, can we move money around? In the interest of full disclosure, you could move from public services to those sort of capital projects, but the money can't flow in the other direction. And then finally, our last category is we have administrative and planning. And I should note here that this current fiscal year, one of our administrative expenses is the development of the historic preservation plan for the city of Holyoke. We're funding that with the Office of Planning and Economic Development, but it's through my administrative line item. Because it's a planning document, it hits our administrative bottom line. So that this year, this current cycle, we're working on that right now. And then for the next cycle, for July 16, I've proposed doing a housing market study. We've done a tremendous amount of housing development. We've got a number of units, probably close to 200 units that are going to be coming online. And so it's time for us to just pause and see where does the community stand with its housing needs? Do we need more condos? Do we need more baby boomer? Do we need more owner-occupied? We all have sort of general ideas of what we need, but it would be good to have that down on paper to guide future funding decisions.
Okay, so just kind of, okay, the housing markets, am I looking at it?
That's in our administrative budget. It's part of our administrative budget that we're proposing.
Okay, it's not broken
It's not
out.
broken out. It's broken out in our CDBG proposal at the back of the book, but it's part of our administrative and planning budget.
Okay, so it's a housing market study that that your office plans to commence sometime at the start of
After July 1st, yep.
Okay. And what do you anticipate with this exactly? So you anticipate this is going to cost what, or what do you think, or what?
We're estimating about $25,000, but we have not gone out to bid or RFP, that sort of thing.
Okay. And so you would hire a consultant to come in and look at Holyoke's housing needs?
We would.
And then that document would be what? It would be
used to guide, quite a bit of the funding that we receive from HUD and from other sources, not directly to the city, but low-income tax credits, affordable housing trust funds, historic preservation funds being used for housing. It would be a guidance document to let us know what direction we should be going in allocating both our CDBG dollars and our home funds, as well as providing guidance to developers, that sort of thing coming in. We have a strong inclination that we don't need additional rental housing, that really we need to be looking at owner-occupied housing, but in what sort of form and what sort of structure, where should that be in the city? So we've allocated $25,000 in our administrative line item for that study this year. And it can't be a standalone project under HUD regulations. It has to be an administrative cost, and so that's where we've put it in for this year.
okay. Well, committee members want to make a comment?
If I could, Mr.
Councilman
Chairman.
McGivern?
Thank you. Thank you, Alicia, for a fine introduction. And I think everything you said, I certainly agree with, and your knowledge is very important to not only this evening, but I think for the whole process itself. Two things is, I understand the mayor has the final say, but the two most important votes that the city council takes is not the recommendations, but the actual acceptance of CDGB grant and the acceptance of the home investment funds themselves. Now, the home investment funds are split between Holyoke, Chicopee, and Westfield. It's nice to see Holyoke is getting the bulk of the share this year, although it's not nice to see that number has dwindled once again. I think it's like less than 750,000.
Our home funds this year, we're probably going to see about $64,000 less right now, but we won't know our final numbers. We'll get a letter from HUD in the next few weeks that will say, here's your exact numbers for July 1st. But as you know, the programs have been dwindling and dwindling. So, but you're absolutely right that the city council does accept the grant like you accept all other grants. And when you accept that, you accept all of the rules and regulations that come with it.
If we do not, and I think that would be unlikely, accept CDGB grant, the mayor cannot spend anything.
Right.
I would like to, besides thanking Alicia and as we go forward, I would like just to make one suggestion that seems to have worked in the past. We certainly are going to make our own recommendations, but based on the mayor has the final say, I would suggest that any motions to add to a line item come with a motion to cut from another line item. And that way, we're not going to be here, we're going to be here for a while, but we're not going to be here forever. And I'll say this tonight, but more important, I'll say it if we do this next Tuesday, Mr. Chairman, is it is a shame that the CDGB, the actual allotment is down 10 times from what it used to be. And I say it's a shame because Holyoke is still considered the poorest by income ratio of the communities within the Commonwealth. And these type of monies, the federal government, used to understand communities like Holyoke used for providing services to a poverty-stricken community in terms of whether it was police, fire, infrastructure, the social services that Alicia talked about, very well needed, very well used, and Holyoke has always done a good job. And the help from the federal government, I think, is not just an entitlement, but something that I think the federal government has to recognize. Quite frankly, the federal government is helping the rest of the world and ignoring part of inner city America. No sense talking about it too much tonight, but I just like to get it on the table.
Okay, well, I agree with all that. In particular, for efficiency purposes, somebody wants to make a cut, then, or somebody wants to add something that they should, they should sort of counter with a cut. I'm going to make the first one because I'm just going to do it. So I'd like to see cut the Center City Pedestrian Plaza for $200,000, and I'd like to see the $200,000 go into sidewalks. So that's my motion. Didn't fail for a second. Anybody else got one?
Trying to find it on the,
It's on the second page.
Infrastructure, yep.
A second for purpose of discussion.
Okay. The Center City Pedestrian Plaza, from, reading the application, while we can see here that it has no support at any level prior to us, that's one issue. Second issue, that is a plan. That is not even building a park. It's a plan, and it's going to be across Dwight Street from City Hall, next to, where the Bud used to be. Now, this is an area where you have a park at Heritage Park. You have a park at Pilsudski Park. You have a park at Veterans Park. That area is surrounded by public space. And to say now we're going to not have any funds at all for sidewalk improvements in the CDBG eligible areas, I think that's a huge misallocation of resources, and it's poor planning and poor foresight. So that's it. That's all I would want to add to that. Councilor Rahman?
I completely agree with Councilor Bartley. The other day I was down in South Holyoke, the sidewalks, for whatever the case may be, are just run down. And I, again, think with all the economic development activity, the new urban agenda grant we just got as a city, we're going to need money to improve the sidewalk condition. So I completely agree with you within these areas of where the CBDG money lies. To not have any money or funding there is a huge concern with me. So I completely support and agree with Councilor Bartley's motion.
okay.
Councilor Sullivan?
I agree 100% on that. Also, the part of when you go through the booklet we were given to study here, it was also to benefit the residents of Lyman Terrace. We have a skateboard park, we have Heritage Park, we have Veterans Park, we have Pulaski Park, Kosciuszko Park, all within
Pulaski
100
Park,
yards.
I said Pulaski. I said Pulaski, I apologize, I know it's on county road, sorry. Okay, my apologies, Pulaski Park.
And they're all within a quarter mile of that neighborhood, and we've got so much else to address, never mind adding to the expense of maintaining another park at this point. So I'd also be in favor of that. The thing I've got to caution everybody at the table about is, don't look at just what the mayor, he pulled the 200,000 out of demolition to move that there. So what we're doing here is we're jumping around a little bit, so when we come back to that, that's where that really came out of from the other recommendations.
Mr. Chairman?
Counselor?
Alicia, can I follow up on that? I followed the CAC minutes and everything like that, and so I wanted to ask, because I saw that your office had recommended that and that the CAC also recommended it. Can you just have a little bit more discussion as to why for the committee members? Because thank you, Councilor Sullivan, for bringing that up. I think that's a good conversation.
I'm sorry, recommending funding for which project?
For the demolition of to-be-determined properties, what are those properties, and like, do you know the areas yet, or what's your thought? What's the thought process?
The demolition funding allocation here, it is to be determined depending on the particular circumstances. Sometimes we can't use CDBG funds for a project. There may be environmental issues that we can't get over HUD's requirements. There may be ownership issues, and so we can't spend our CDBG dollars on a timely basis. And so that's why it's currently categorized as to be determined. We recommended OCD recommended funding demolition because we felt like, for the first time ever, we put out a recommendation that said we strongly suggest that the city consider concentrating its dollars in one neighborhood. Because for years and years, we have allocated funding here and here and here and here and here. And if you look around the city and think that the city has probably received about $50 million in CDBG dollars to date, can you see $50 million worth of improvement? And so we felt like if we concentrated our spending and our allocations this year in what we described as the Tree Streets neighborhood, that it was going to build off existing investments like the Library Commons that will be coming shortly, Chestnut Park that is currently being rented up, the new senior center. And so we envisioned demolition of some of the most blighted properties in that neighborhood. We also felt like it was important to have a demolition allocation this year because we know the city budget is tight, and we know that right now we're hiring for 2 code enforcement inspectors, and it's highly likely that the result of their work will be demolition of some properties, that there will be some that they will just find will not be salvageable and that will need some demolition money. And so it was a partnership with the current code enforcement program. Just to make your process easier, like I said, I have this on an Excel spreadsheet, so as you give me numbers, I'm able to drop them in, and then if I may, I can tell you exactly how much you have left to allocate. That way you don't have to be keeping track of, well, I want to take it from here. If you simply say where you want to allocate it, I will put it here, and then I can report to you how much money you have left, if that makes it easier.
Thank you. Well, I'm sorry, Council Tallman.
Yeah, I agree on the sidewalks. I think 200,000, I think Councilor Sullivan brought up a good point about the demolition of buildings. I mean, several blighted buildings, especially in the downtown areas, Library Park, and when we just look at the armory that we're going to have to find some serious money for. My thought is to take that away from that Center City pedestrian plaza and put 100,000 towards sidewalks and 100,000 towards the demolition of to be determined properties. If anybody has any comments on that, any thoughts on that?
Councilman McGivern, did you want to say something?
I seconded it for discussion, and I'm glad I did, Mr. Chairman. I think you made some good points. Not that I'm against new parks or anything, but I think we have some existing business to take care of. I agree sidewalks are a priority. I listened to the comments here about demolition. I agree with Councilor Tallman's reasoning, but I'm thinking sidewalks, because we know the sidewalks that are in dire need. We do 125,000, and at the moment put 75,000 in demolition, if that makes sense.
Well,
Council Sullivan?
right now we're trying to compare just one against the other, one against the other, one against the other. There's others where I think some cuts can make as we walk through it. If we follow Alicia's advice here, right, what she does with the spreadsheet, and this is the way it worked going through the committee, go through it line item by line item, right, with what we'd like to do, let her keep the running track, and then when we have to go back and start making cuts somewhere, that'll work a lot faster than trying to compare this against this against this. I'm willing to think we could still keep demolition. I'm gonna push for the full 300,000, and I'm rethinking some of the stuff we did in the Citizens Advisory Council, especially in light of what just happened with the Armory, and the other things we're working through in the City Council right now. But if we wanna start out with the sidewalks, put whatever number we want in, and then start working through the list and see where we land out.
Council Tomlin?
I agree, but it's just, she can't put a number in if she's got three different numbers, you know? That's the only thing, we gotta sort of make a vote and decide what we wanna put in for sidewalks.
That was exactly where, because
Right.
right now I have 200 in there, because I thought there was a motion and a second on 200.
For
and then the
discussion, yeah.
And then the
Nobody
discussion
really
sort of
voted.
went someplace
Right.
else.
But we got
so-
three different
No, we haven't
ideas.
voted yet.
Yeah, we got three different numbers for the sidewalks, I think, right now, so. I know we have to sort of come to a
Well, we
consensus.
have a motion for 200.
Well,
And a second,
well,
right?
we can sort of tweak that around a little bit. I mean, I heard what everybody said here. I guess that,
Start taking it out of the park, just take that money out? We do that? Everybody's for that, taking that 200,000?
Yeah.
No, we could,
yeah, I'm pretty much hearing consensus on the lack of urgency for a center
Park,
city pedestrian
right.
plaza.
right.
I don't, I mean, we all support parks, but there's some more pressing needs here
Right.
with, I mean, just walking around the neighborhoods as much as I do, and, and I'm talking, you know, wards 1, 2, and 3A, which I walk around, I mean, I'm bounced on a lot. There's a demand for it, and I think that I think the full amount should be seriously considered by this committee, and hopefully the full city council, and hopefully the mayor. I think the mayor's shown in the past, as I said, I think when we recommend something, he's been, you know, 4 years, this will be the 5th year I've been doing this, he's been pretty much on point with it. So I think if he hears from the body that, you know, the full amount, you know, we want to build some things up in some of these neighborhoods, and it really goes to quality of life. You hear this all the time, and I know Councilor Roman walked his ward to campaign. I walked my whole ward to campaign. You really hear that from neighbors. They don't talk about the tax rate. I know everybody from, you know, down that part of High Street always talks about the tax rate. You don't hear it much. Let me tell you, and I've actually talked to neighbors about, no, but they're good to go with the amount of taxes they pay in Holyoke. They really are. And I've even said it that night, Councilor Roman, when we were setting the tax rate, if you recall, talking to business people like I do. At least the ones I knew, they're major property owners, they weren't complaining about the tax rate. I'm just saying, they weren't. Now, there's a very vocal group at 177 High Street that talks about that a lot, but folks that aren't from there, they don't talk about it. So, anyhow, I thought if we had a strong the strong number right there, I thought that would be, but that's just me. So, anybody else want to add to that or subtract from it?
Just real quick, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Councilman Wheeler.
And I understand what everybody's saying. I think we're on the same page, but we're not quite there. If the $200,000, it sounds like we're in agreement with minusing it. Again, the reason I'm suggesting 125 for sidewalks is that's a level funded figure more or less for last year. And I agree demolition's going to need money. We can continue to add money to demolition. We can continue to add money to sidewalks as we go along.
Right.
I'm just suggesting at the moment, it might be a quick move to give us an idea of which direction we're going in, to take that $200,000, put 125 in sidewalks and 75 in demolition.
Councilor Sullivan?
We've got a motion, we've already got a motion on the floor, right?
We do. Councilor Roman?
I was just gonna call it to move. I agree, like, I think I would like to vote on that. I agree with you, the 200,000 should be where we go, right off the bat. I agree, and I think it should be higher as well. So,
Okay. Okay, well, we have a motion on the 200,000, and I think just to echo Councilor McGivern, because I really hear what he's saying there. You know, if we want, we can change that 200,000 to move that elsewhere, if, you know, upon further discussion, okay?
Yep.
So, okay, on the motion, all in favor?
Hey, I just want to hear the
Councilman
motion
Gill.
again. $200,000 cut to sidewalks.
Yeah, I'm saying,
We
Joe,
don't-
200,000 from
don't-
Center City pedestrian
we don't-
plaza,
2 sidewalks was the motion.
2 sidewalks is the motion.
We
That
don't
was the
have-
motion.
We don't,
That's the motion on the floor that was seconded.
yeah.
Yep.
So that's, I mean, are we good with discussion now?
All right, so we're doing 2 line items at the same time.
Looks like it.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, yeah, so we
Yep.
add one and we cut at the same time, just for efficiency purposes.
Yep.
So that's the motion. We'll do a roll call. Counselor Oman?
Aye.
Counselor Tomlin?
No.
Counselor Bartley, yes. Counselor McGivern?
Yes.
Counselor Sullivan?
Yes.
Okay, 4-1. Okay, so Alicia, we just moved 200 from Center City pedestrian plaza to sidewalks.
And so what I'm doing is I'm treating your allocations as a standalone, not comparing them to the mayor's or anybody else's. And so currently, you have allocated 0 to Center City, $200,000 to sidewalks, and that leaves you $514,452.
Okay, all right.
Can we start at the top of the list and work our way right through?
You can start anywhere you like, Counselor Sullivan, or any counselor once who's recognized can count. Sorry, do you have a motion?
Yeah, I would make the next motion then on the HAP acquisition, item number 1, that we recommend 0.
Second.
Under discussion? Paul, under discussion on that? Well, Counselor Sullivan, you made the motion, so you want
Yeah. Just,
to?
originally I was in favor of it. I've looked at some of the properties they've got around town. They're very well maintained. It's just right now with everything else we've got to do, and in light of what we want to do with some sidewalks, other stuff that weren't on the table during the advisory committee meeting, and what's just happened, I'll go back again to the Armory. I think it has to drop down on the priority list. They're very well organized, very well funded. It's a multi-million-dollar project. I think if they can't make this happen without our $150,000, then it's really not going to matter.
And it was to cut 150 from there and put 150 where, Counselor?
But,
No, there's nothing.
we
There's
don't
no
have to
cut.
put it, we don't have to put it anywhere.
cut.
No
We
cut.
just make our
It's motion
recommendations.
0.
Yeah, motion is 0.
Okay, Counselor Roman, did you want to address?
Yeah.
Okay, on that motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So we're saying 0 for HAP, okay.
Make a motion on the next item, Mountain Road blight removal, 60,000.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Counselor Tallman?
Just like to keep that in there to go along with the OCD and the CAC and the mayor's recommendations.
Yeah, and one thing we should understand about this is that 60,000 we could recover during the course of the year and use for other line items like sidewalks, like demolition, like blight remediation. These two, when these 2 lots are cleaned up, they can go up for sale. I believe it's in the neighborhood of 6 acres, and it has to go out as 2 3-acre parcels. But I would imagine we might
Some of that.
get not only that 60,000, we might be able to get quite a bit more. That's quite a desirable area and quite a large parcel of land. So,
Counselor McGivern?
If I could, I'm just going to ask Alicia a quick question. Counselor Sullivan is talking about using reallocated funds, which over the years we know does happen, sometimes from prior years when funds sit there unused, sometimes, as Counselor Sullivan just described. Typically, do all reallocated funds come back to the city council for a second vote, or is it just a determination by the mayor?
It depends on the project and the amount. Under our citizens participation plan, the mayor has the authority to increase an already funded project by 15%. Basically, we use that for cost overruns. If the bids came in a little high, if something was discovered while the project was going on. So we do use unprogrammed funds, previous year funds to cover those overruns. What we did last year was we had a tremendous amount of unprogrammed administrative money that just did not get used, and because of the 20% cap, we couldn't use it for admin, so we rolled that into last year's allocation. So right now, we don't have any amounts of unprogrammed funds. We might have 10 or 20,000, but nothing like we've seen in prior years. If we end this year with funds that are unprogrammed, if the money comes back to us, we'll make sure that they get into the line item to be allocated for 17.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion on that? On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's 60,000 to Mountain Road blight removal.
Okay, I'd make a motion on the next item that we go with a allotment of $250,000 for demolition of TBD properties.
And where would it be coming from?
Out of the $750,000.
Yeah, but it's got to take it away from some other.
Well, we'll figure that out as we work our way down the list.
No, our
just took-
process is different than her process. We've said that if we're gonna cut or add one where we're gonna cut somewhere else, unlike what Alicia's offering, no disrespect. With all due respect to Alicia, we're doing it, if you add one where you have to cut somewhere else.
Alicia likes our process.
With all due respect, the process of, if you fund it, you have to take it somewhere else, that actually evolved from the days before staff could be here and tell you exactly where you were at. It was a way to have the accounting be smooth through the evening. So however you want to do it, like I said, at any time I can tell you how much you have left to allocate. But I'm not worried about like where you're taking it from. I'm only worried about dropping a number into your column, so.
Got it.
Thank you.
But
Yeah, but, yeah, we. Yeah.
$250,000 addition, when we get to the end,
Yeah.
we're gonna have to go back and start cutting.
Cutting, yeah.
So why don't we cut it while we're doing it?
Yeah, I think.
It's
it
a
makes-
lot quicker.
No, I agree with, I have to agree with Councilman McGivern on this one, just for efficiency purposes. But I hear what you're saying, Alicia, on that, so it was yeah, I would kind of rather see a cut come from somewhere, but that's me. But we had a motion out, I don't have a second on that one yet, so, so I'll look for another motion at this point. I mean, maybe you could start with something that you know, you want to approve, so, I mean, say, for example, I could motion that we approve the Bowden Village Playground for $68,640.
Second.
Oh, motion, all right. All right, so we have this, so that's moved and seconded, so it's on the floor. I think this is a really exciting project, for an important part of Holyoke. I'm just so happy it's, you know, when we talk about Bowden Village, sometimes the connotations aren't great, but, you know, as I've gotten into, geez, Peter, I've gotten into some interesting things lately with, you know, they named Ray Bowden, John McKenzie, and Muller Bridge and all the rest of that. So we've had some wonderful discussions, and just being in the, you know, being in the War Memorial as I've spent some time there the last few weeks, and seeing our Medal of Honor room. It's, I mean, it's really, really impressive. And so you know, Bowden Village should be like the Muller Bridge, like Mackenzie Stadium. It should be honored and a cherished part of the neighborhood, city. You know, we all know the connotations up there aren't that, and they should be. And I think some of the things that are happening with the housing authority, they're making some improvements up there, along with the Ward 6 counselor. I think they're making some improvements, and I think this is something that we should get behind and support, and support our young families up there. I mean, I've got something we had up at Mare Field. Joe goes by there virtually every day, and it's, again, because there's a lot of young families that are moving into that area, believe it or not, and they want just more things for their kids to do. And this, I think, would be a real benefit for the young people up in Bowen Village. So that's why I support it. Thank you. Anyone else? No? Oh, Councilman McGivern?
Vote.
I would just speak in favor of the support, and similar to what you're saying, Councilor Bartley, and also because I spent the first 3 years of my life in Bowling Village, and I think it is a special place for families, and I think this type of an addition to, and there's some wonderful families up there now, this type of addition would make sense, and I think the Housing Authority will do a good job with it.
Yeah. Okay, so on the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so Alicia, you got that one? All right,
Mr. Chairman,
Councilor Roman.
I'd like to make a motion just again to expedite in the expedience of time that we approve for under clearance and demolition, $0 for Valley Arena Park cleanup. That we also, can I just do them as a package, Mr. Chairman? Is that okay?
Motion to suspend, do them as a package, sure.
Second.
Second, okay.
Also under housing, $0 for the Old Holyoke Development Corporation Neighborhood Improvement Program.
Where are you?
Under public facilities. Under public facilities, continued $0 for Crozier Field tennis courts. $0 for Springdale pedestrian lighting. $0 for Holyoke Farm LLC site amenities. And $0 for under economic development for the micro enterprise spark program and best retail practices.
Okay. Okay, the Old Holyoke is a empowering community storefront. You said 0 for that?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna second that motion, so, under discussion?
And this was again just going in line with all the recommendations prior and just keeping in line with that, Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman. For the
Councilman McGivern?
Just, there's two Old Holyoke development. Are they both zeros?
I think you only mentioned one.
Yeah, they mentioned the,
You
Okay,
mentioned-
because I think originally you said neighborhood improvement, but you meant under housing, it's neighborhood improvement. Under public facilities, it's the empowering community storefront.
You're correct.
Okay.
so which
Okay,
one
yeah,
you
So NIP is okay at the moment?
At the moment,
Okay, thank you.
at the moment.
Which one did you keep?
I think we should add, I'd like to see that one on the,
Well,
as part of the package.
well, we can, we'll just respect the motion on the floor right now, but you can make a separate motion, once we vote on this one, Mike, so.
Okay.
So I think we kind of much hammered that out. Okay, on the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Alicia, so you kind of got zeros for all those, right? Do you want me to recap it? You want me to recap it? I can recap it, or? So just, well, no, I just want, you don't need to recap, I'll just, so Valley Arena, 0. Empowering Community Storefront, 0. Crozier, 0. Springdale Pedestrian Lighting, 0. Holyoke Farms site amenities, 0. And Spark, 0. Okay? No, that wasn't,
You missed one, I think, though. The best retail. You had 0 on that one, too. Best retail,
Best region.
is 0.
oh, Best Retail, 0. Best Retail, 0. Okay. So Spark and then Best Retail, 0. All right.
I'm missing one. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
I'll just go through it.
Is it Holyoke Farms, you said?
Yeah.
Holyoke
okay,
Farms
I got
LLC site amenities.
Got it.
0.
Got it. All
Okay.
set.
All righty. Thank you.
Could I make a motion?
Counselor?
For the Board of Health, Building Department, Code Enforcement, Blight Remediation, $131,753.
Second.
Under discussion, Counselor Tomlin?
That's what's been asked for and approved by the OCD, CAC, and the mayor, and I think that is money that would be well spent with the code enforcement.
Yeah, I'm real excited about that myself. I just, we all hear those complaints a lot. And if we get the requisite, now on this one, Alicia, this is to hire 2 people? Did I read that right? Okay, so why don't you sort of help us out with, when CDBG goes away, because this was funded not quite to that extent last year. This is a pretty significant increase.
The position, there was one, last year for FY15, there was one position funded for a code enforcement program. It's taken a few months between the law department, the building department, the health department, and myself to get the position sort of organized and straightened out and design a program that's HUD compliant. And so we have done that. And because a half a year has already run and we have basically enough money for 2 positions, the Board of Health and the Building Department are in the process of hiring code enforcement people specifically for the CDBG funded program. In the Building Department, the position title is Local Inspector, and in the Board of Health, the position title is Sanitarian. They will both be folks that are managed by their respective departments, located in their respective departments, and paid through CDBG as part of this code enforcement initiative. Just like my staff and myself, if CDBG dollars go away, then those positions would go away as well. If we find that the program does not meet the HUD requirements, does not hit its benchmarks, then obviously it's not something that we would come back in with a proposal. It is a HUD eligible activity, but there are strict criteria. And so we've been working closely with HUD to design the program as well as implement it. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
So if it goes away,
Correct.
well, what happens then? Are they,
The positions are eliminated.
are they on unemployment?
We are.
So we'd have to pay unemployment.
Yeah, any of the grant funded, it's my understanding when working with the law department that any grant funded position in the city of Holyoke, if it is eliminated, becomes unemployment.
Councilor Juan? do you-
And I don't want to speak for the law department, but we've had those sort of conversations.
Alicia, so my question too would be, what's this like sustainability of these 2 positions? Is this something that you anticipate for FY, the years after this, you're going to keep coming back to fill these positions? So it's going to take that chunk of money for the foreseeable future? Or what's the sustainability between those 2 departments to make this position then outside of eating up the CBDG money every year?
My hope would be that the positions become sustainable, either because the city's financial situation improves and the city can then assume responsibility for those salaries, or we find that the folks generate so many fines that maybe we're able to have that fine money, instead of going to the general fund, could be earmarked to those positions. That's really not my area of expertise. We were responsible for setting up the program in terms of sustainability. I really would want to talk to the departments about it. But right now, we know if this funding is approved, that we would have enough CDBG funding to run from now until June 2017, maybe even a little longer. The other possibility is the positions have been advertised as strictly grant funded as part of this code enforcement program. It would be a wonderful thing to say, you know what, we don't need these positions anymore, that we've gotten code enforcement under control in the city, that things are looking really good, and that really it's a short-term initiative. So.
Solomon?
Yeah, just a little bit better explanation. So if this is funded through June, right, these 2 positions, and then the city, say, doesn't pick them up, are they just done? There's no money being paid to them. They won't be unemployed. So, and they'd be able to collect unemployment for a period of?
I believe so. That would be a question for the personnel department and the law department. I don't know how long they would be eligible to collect unemployment for.
Okay. And the other side of it, would it be possible for them to, in the following year, ask for this money again for those 2 positions, 2 block grant money?
Absolutely.
Regular grant.
Absolutely. The departments would be eligible to apply for 1 position, 2 positions, more positions, as long as the program meets the HUD criteria. And like I said, this is a task the city of Holyoke has never used the funding for code enforcement before, but as part of the targeted strategy in the downtown core, in our lower 4 census tracts, we're gonna give it a shot.
Okay.
Councilor McGivern?
Alicia, when your staff, yourself, are appointed, are hired by the city, it's for a good purpose, an understanding purpose, not just to manage the block grant monies, but to manage, the connection to HUD, the connection, to the federal government and everything your office does, which I think is wonderful and has been over the years. And I understand the need and recognize these two positions, how important they are. And I understand the arguments that they can be money-producing positions. But the unemployment issue and the benefits issue in this climate is difficult to take a chance. These two positions, if the city were to face layoffs, would be the lowest senior people and would be some of the first to go. And because of that, I reluctantly am not going to take a chance, and I'll be voting no on this motion.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's, I can't deny it. Councilor Armand, you want to add something?
No, I just want to say that, based off of hearing this conversation and reading and just bringing up that ideal, I don't see in the foreseeable future, as we know, the city's financial conditions on the up and up. And my biggest concern would again be the sustainability. So that's why I would like, I think I'm going to lean towards voting no, because I would like to hear from those departments on what's the sustainability of these positions afterwards, because if they're going to come in every year, that's eating up CBDG money that we could use for sidewalks or demolition, or if the buildings aren't in compliance, let's just take them down. I mean, but for me, that's the largest concern in holding us accountable to this. And again, the retirement and the unemployment costs are going up, and we're all about keeping costs low. So I second the sentiments of my colleagues where I agree, and this is great. I'm going to have to vote no.
Well, it doesn't mean you can allocate a different amount too. I mean, so you can do all that, but, okay, I think I'll do a roll call on this vote. So the motion is, made and seconded to have code enforcement blight remediation be 131,753. Counselor Sullivan?
No.
Counselor McGivern?
No.
Counselor Bartley's gonna vote no. Counselor Tallman?
Yes.
Counselor Armand?
No.
Okay, so that is, that's not there yet. Okay, so, any other motions?
Make a motion to fund code enforcement blight at level funding from last year, 51,200.
I'll second that. On discussion? Counselor Sullivan?
Well, we've got a person in place. I believe that's what's being spent already.
The last year's allocation of $51,200 has been divided now between two positions because we didn't hire in the first 6 months, so we actually have 2 half salaries. So the city is in the process right now of hiring 2 people. So if you fund it at 51.2, then that's only enough for those 2 people to go for 6 months, or one person gets eliminated and goes for 1 year. If I may, on the code enforcement program, I completely understand the concerns about unemployment and benefits and that sort of thing, but I would also suggest that you take a look at the programmatic value of it. These are folks, and I'm happy to forward to you the program manual that we've written. These are folks who will be dedicated to very specific neighborhoods, and that's it. And so they will only be working in our most blighted areas. The program manual requires that they go house to house, lot to lot. This is not a complaint-driven program. It is not a reactive program. It is absolutely a proactive program. And so literally the requirements that we've written for these departments, these code inspectors every single day, every single week for the year that the program is going to run, will be assigned to particular streets, and they will go, like I said, literally lot by lot, building by building, business by business, doing inspections to really target. And so there is, I think, from a community development and a neighborhood revitalization perspective, some value to that. Because they're not going to just be in the office answering calls. They are going to be walking in our neighborhoods and interacting with our property owners to really make improvements. And if those improvements aren't seen, we can't approve the funding for it to continue.
Yeah, I guess when we approved this last year, we kind of thought the thing would be up and running and we'd have some feedback for it. And now all of a sudden we're
Right.
virtually tripling the program. So I think that I think that's just a bridge too far at this point. I'd like to see some results from it and then come back next year. I think that would be just a little more prudent play. So, any other counselors want to make a comment?
Mr. Chairman.
Counselor Romano, I'm sorry.
I agree with the level funding, and I would like to see those results in 6 months. Like, I agree if they're both half-time positions at 6 months, that's half a year, exactly what Counselor Bartley's saying. Level funded, if that's the case, let's see what they can produce in 6 months and come back for the funding next year if it's truly successful. But I happen to agree with the chairman on this.
Alicia,
Counselor Given?
there's 2 people hired already, or did you say in the process? And who's interviewing them?
They're being hired for the building department and the Board of Health, and the positions or the interviews will be conducted by those departments as well as personnel, and probably Kara will sit in as well as myself, because we have so many different pieces to the positions. They're going to be working closely with the law department in the receivership program. They'll be working closely with me to make sure that the reporting meets HUD requirements, and they'll be reporting to both Brian and Damien.
Now, there's a number of sanitations in the Board of Health at the moment.
Sanitarians, yep,
Sanitarians, 2, 3,
I'm not sure.
and we're adding one to that through a grant process, which last year we told was only going to be 1 person.
Correct.
So how do we add people to a budget that is not, some people argue not level funded? And these are civil service positions?
They're regular city employees.
I'm not sure, it's okay. In the building department, we've lost a position there, now we're creating a position?
It's the position of local inspector. I can't tell you if that position has previously existed.
I'm going to stand by what I said, Mr. Chairman. Using grant money to hire full-time people is typically disastrous in the long run. The need's there. I don't second guess that. I understand the arguments. I'll keep an open mind, but the city of Springfield did it years ago, and they ended up in a finance control board when they did
Well,
it for police officers.
We did it too.
City of Holyoke did it
Look
more than
what we did.
once.
Look what we just did. With-
Fire
with-
department.
With the fire department.
And
What a disaster.
it just comes back to haunt you.
So, but we all 15 of us happily just took the money. That was a unanimous vote. And so, I'm of the opinion, I wanted to see this thing started last year, and now I understand why it didn't start last year, and so now but I'm of the opinion that at a much lower rate, there's a lot less exposure to the city. So I think this is worthwhile, especially when listen, you walk around. I just had a C-click fix for Brown Avenue, and that's not the first time I've seen it either. Stuff happens. Things have to be done, and I appreciate neighbors doing that, going around doing it. But it'd be nice to have a professional who could. Not CDBG eligible, by the way. So that's why I'm bringing that area up. So it'd be nice to have a professional who can go in and try to right these problems that are really quality of life issues. So that's why I'm gonna support the motion on the floor. That's my opinion. So any other counselors? No? Okay, we'll roll call this one.
So what's it,
the-
51,000?
This is for 51,200 is Counselor Sullivan's motion. We're gonna start this then. Counselor Roman?
Yes.
Counselor Tallman?
Yes.
Counselor Bartley's yes. Counselor McGivern?
No,
Counselor Sullivan?
Yes.
Okay, that passes 4-1. Alicia, 51-2. In that section.
Mr. Chairman,
Counselor Roman?
I make a motion to approve $100,000 for the Holyoke Green Fit block rebuild.
Second.
In discussion, Counselor Roman?
This is just going again in order with the recommendations from across the board, from the office all the way down.
Counselor Sullivan?
This program, from what I've seen, instead of it in Springfield's been highly successful. I think it's worth a shot here in Holyoke. It's got a good track record, and it's something that can really help a lot of people throughout the town.
Okay. I'm sorry, Councilman, did I cut you off?
No, not at all, no. Alicia, just checking, how much do we have available currently? I like the program. I saw that the applicants asked for 125. May I amend my motion to recommend 125,000, Mr. Chairman?
You can motion for that.
Can I make a motion to up the amount by $25,000? Bills for a second, that's fine.
Yeah, it does done a second, okay. Okay, but on the main motion, $100,000, Council Sullivan, you reviewed this heavily, I know that, and I appreciate your input, as I mentioned already a couple times. So, it looks like we're pretty good to go on that. On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Alicia, you got that one? Good. Alicia, I just a personal privilege here. The neighborhood improvement program, now, why would OCD and CAC say 0 to that?
Want me to take that, Alicia?
I think, okay, sure, Councilor
Yeah, I'll
Sullivan.
help you. Mike Moriarty came before us
So Mike's the executive director of Old Holyoke.
of Old Holyoke. He hasn't spent the money from last year. He still has all of that available. The reason he put in the request is, I forget the exact number of years, but for
'Decades.
30 years, they've always got something. He didn't want to set the precedent of not asking, not getting. In the notes that we passed along, all the committee members really appreciated what he was doing, the successes they've had and stuff, the effect they've had in Holyoke. And many of the board members have been on there for 3, 4, 5 years running. They assured him that because it would show up next year as a 0 line item, that they would not look at it that way. And it's funds he really doesn't need right now. So
Thank
that's
you.
why I went to 0 on it.
Okay, so perhaps there's some flexibility there, just for the FYI.
And staff's recommendation?
Staff's recommendation is in line with what Counselor Sullivan described. We actually have all of 2015's funds available for the NIP program, 100,000 that's not been touched yet, and we still have approximately $35,000 in 2014 funds that have not been expended yet. We've had 2 applications to the program since December. So applications and participation have dropped off, and rather than allocating additional funds this year, we strongly recommend not funding and letting this run its course until the next funding cycle.
Alicia, the NIP program historically is one of the more successful block grant programs we've seen. And that's held true over the decades, not just up and down. Is there a reason why applications have dropped off? Is marketing, advertising different or not there?
We have been working strongly with Old Holyoke around marketing and advertising. We did a huge marketing blitz in the last few months. We had information about the NIP program included in everyone's Holyoke gas and electric bill. We've done bilingual marketing. We've done newspaper articles. We've been on TV a couple of times about the program. And it could be that we're just in a tipping point where the need is just not keeping up with the funding. We've opened the program up to new buyers here in Holyoke, and so if you buy your home in Holyoke through the Buy Holyoke Now program, We will allow you to enter into the NIP program right away. There's no waiting period where we used to have a waiting period to enter it. So we've done some other creative things. We've partnered with East Hampton Savings Bank, and so if someone doesn't have the cash contribution that's required, East Hampton Savings Bank has a special loan product for them. I think it's just sort of the ebb and flow. But one of the concerns that we have is when you have a significant allocation like 100,000 and we're not spending it, we have a spending rate test that HUD will do on us the first week of May. If we are above a certain percentage of funds in our account, we're at risk of losing those. And so we're always pushing people to spend. And so when I look at a program that still has 2014 funds available, we need to say, okay, let's think about holding back a little bit this year. I have said to the mayor and to Old Holyoke's executive director, and I said it to the CAC, is that from my perspective, the city is completely committed to this program. We have to be. It's part of our consolidated plan. It's part of our annual plan that we're supporting rehab of owner-occupied housing. But that said, we need to balance it with how the dollars are being spent and how much is actually being accessed. And so where we have on the books all of 15's funds, it's hard for me to make a recommendation to go ahead and fund it fully for the next cycle.
Does Old Holyoke Development take any administrative cost out of these?
They do. For every completed case, they receive 720, I believe the rate right now is $727 per case.
Per case, so if there is nothing,
They're not receiving
venture
their.
not lost.
No, and
lost.
I emphasize completed case. And so a completed case means they've taken the application, they've done their inspections, the homeowner has had the work done, the work has been certified as complete, and we are processing the invoice to the homeowner. And that's the time that we're paying the admin fee. So there's no administrative cost going out the door if there are not completed cases.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, well, I think those are excellent questions, so we think we all learned a lot right there on that. So, okay, well, I'll make the motion, nobody else is gonna make it. I'm gonna make the motion to zero out the NIP and to put the 30,000 into demo of TDB properties.
Second.
Thank you for the second. So I just wanna, again, I think we just went over this, so there's no real need for me for discussion. So, any other councilors want to make a comment on that?
Oh, go ahead.
How much do we have left, Alicia?
When I put the 30,000 into demolition, that was it, because there were no other votes that were approving. So you now have 204,612.
Well, that's if, we haven't put in demolition yet, but we're not there yet. We're just at a motion at this point. So I motion to take the 30 out, and to zero out the NIP program for this year. Again, emphasizing how much we all respect it and we want it to go on. We have to have it go on. But I would like to start adding a little bit of money to the demo line. So that was it. On the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Everybody good? Okay, so there's that. Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman?
Okay. Oh.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, you first.
No,
Council Tallman?
I like to take the Office of Planning and Economic Development Public Art installation grants and zero that out.
Second.
And you want to put it somewhere, Pete?
I would love to put that towards the, if we can do that now, towards the demolition of to be determined properties.
Is that seconded?
Yeah, second.
Okay, that's second, okay. On discussion, anyone? Hearing none, on the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, so Alicia, so we're gonna put zero for public art install. And again, we saw that it was zeroed by OCD, it was zeroed by CAC. The mayor recommended 24059, but we're gonna zero that, and we're gonna put that 24059 over at demo, okay? All right.
How much do we have left, Alicia? Well, I'd like to make another try. I'd like to make a motion, we increase the demolition to 200,000.
Well, you gotta use a little harder numbers than that, Counselor Sullivan. So, you've got 185,053 left. And in there now, it looks like there's 54,059. Alicia, is that wrong? Okay. 54.
I have a placeholder of 54,059 in demolition. That's just the placeholder that's there for the amount based on the motions. And so you have 185,53 net left.
Right. So if we go back to 200 in demolition, that's gonna leave us with,
Well, we haven't dealt with a couple items yet. There's 51,000 that's kind of hanging there from the Board of Health, code enforcement. And then there's 50 and 50 under Parks Department, 50 for public signs and 50 for Susie.
Yeah, there's about 80,000 there, Joe, right?
I think,
There's about 80,000 hanging there? Would you agree with that?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
about
yeah.
80,000
Yep.
hanging there from
I'm sorry,
code
yes.
enforcement.
Yep.
I'm just using round numbers. And about 100,000 hanging there from,
So it's 50, 50, and 80, and that's the number that we have left.
yeah.
If we're gonna put it in demolition, essentially we're saying is public sign, park signs are gone, and Susie park improvements are gone.
Yeah, Counselor Sullivan, just on public park signs, Susie Park, the OCD and CAC, zero those out, what was the thinking over there? Not to put you on the spot, if you don't want to recall, I'll ask Alicia. but-
yeah, I've gotta think about that.
Well, Alicia, what's the thinking on those?
The thinking on both of those, again, was OCD was really focused this year on a targeted investment approach. And so with the limited dollars that we had, we did a targeted approach. And so geographically, Susie and public park signs did not fit into that. It was a philosophical approach to allocation.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Counselor McGivern every year we bring this up, because let's face it, they're all worthwhile. I mean, for the love of Mike, they're all worthwhile. So this is just gut wrenching. Counselor Roman.
So for the sake of full transparency, I know that I work at Lighthouse Teens. You guys know an alternative program for teens. So I know that the mayor's recommendation to put that allocation of funding back was, I work there. My teens advocated and pushed for it. And I personally reached out and pushed for the park signs. That was, and again, speaking with the mayor and recommendation, he does his own thing, but I wanted the Springdale and everything else, but you're absolutely right. I agree with my colleagues here, but I just wanted to point out that my teens were a big part of that, and I just wanted to kind of call that out in the process. I'm okay with what we decide as a group, but just to say my teens were a big part of that, and I'm proud of them for it, for bringing this attention to light. And this goes, I think, to a bigger, what we were kind of addressing with our city council president. There might need to be some bonding issues or some things that we have to address for infrastructure in our parks, and especially down in some of these areas. I know there's a splash pad at Carlos Vega, but Jackson Courts, Susie Park, Valley Arena, these are all dilapidated parks down in that area where some neighbors who just don't have the accessibility on that, Mr. Chairman. So that's where that comes from. But I agree with the counselor, my colleagues, in that we need more in demolition. So where I love my teens, I'm going to go back tomorrow to school and say, listen, you guys did a great job. Let's go after it again another year. But we need to take down some of these buildings that are a big risk to our safety. So I just wanted to put that out there, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
That's, and really, the mayor should be credited for listening to you on this. So but if that's your feeling, then you probably need to go back to the mayor as well, depending on how this vote goes, of course, and then sort of, counsel the mayor on your thinking on this. So, I mean, that's, especially in light of what Alicia said, that's pretty vital. So,
Mr. Chairman, if I can,
Councilman
two really
Long,
quick. Alicia, my question to you is, with your targeted approach, there is lots of investment currently, all in that area currently. So my question is, specifically with Main Street, High Street, or even, as we were talking about the Armory, the area that's to be determined isn't the area where the buildings are in the most need. So can that allocation, I know in working with the building department, I just received and requested a list that Marcos, the city's developed the top 25 targeted buildings. Would that list be the priority, or is it still around this area of like behind the library and park? So that's just my question.
The OCD recommendations around targeting were just those. They were recommendations based on what we're seeing, the other investments that are being made, and really putting the capstone on some of the neighborhood work so that we could finish off a neighborhood, address the blight, address the buildings, and then move on to the next neighborhood. Strictly a recommendation, strictly a philosophy. Obviously, the demolition priorities are not determined by my office. They're determined by the building commissioner, the fire department, the survey board. So if the building commissioner comes and says, I have a property on Main Street, that's gonna get priority. And so if a targeted approach was, sort of adopted across the board, then obviously we would say, well, let's take down this building as opposed to this one because it's in our target area. It finishes off this neighborhood revitalization. But if public safety takes priority, which it should, then we would certainly look to the building department. And we're working closely with building and planning around those properties because it's not as if they can just say, okay, we're gonna take this one down. We have to do a very comprehensive, about 120-day environmental review. And so sometimes we start that environmental review and find that there are environmental conditions on that site that precludes the use of HUD funds. And so we have to move on to the next one. Sometimes those properties that are slated for demolition get caught in the Mass Historic Commission review, and we find that it's gonna take much longer, and so we opt for another building. And so public safety will be paramount, but OCD staff wanted to put out this idea of targeting and then moving on to the next area.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so I don't really have a motion that's seconded right now. But we've got some, it sounds like we got some potential consensus here on some of these things, but, if somebody wants to make a motion on the signs or Susie or,
Well, I'd make a motion, we take both of those to zero.
I'll second for discussion. Councilor Sullivan?
Well, I'm just feeling I'm going around and repeating a lot of what I've said previously and what Alicia just said also. Right now to spend $50,000 for public park signage when we've got buildings collapsing all around us, we've got limited amount of resources. We've got to do something.
Okay, so you're thinking is to take the 100 and put into demo? Is that the motion?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll second that. So the motion is to take the 50,000 from Parks Department and 50,000 for Susie Park Department. That's $100,000, and move that to demo of TDB properties. I think we've gone around this pretty well. I'll just do a voice vote on that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay, I think the ayes have it.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Alicia, you with us on that one?
Yep.
Okay.
And the drum roll, please.
Yeah, where's
You have $80,553 left.
Jerry Lewis?
Make a motion to put the $80,553 into demolition of buildings.
Second.
On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
And the grand total for demolition, so Councilor Sullivan can see our way works too.
What do you got, Alicia?
Give the accountant a second.
We are.
That was a
Give me a
computer over
second.
there. What the heck?
234 and change.
I think it's a little more.
I get 234,612.
That change is 612?
Yeah.
Very good.
234,612. Okay, what do we got left?
Nothing.
That's it.
That should be it. Let me drop that number into demolition for you. I'm working on just like this little itty bitty screen, so bear with me if you would. 234, 612, and let's hope that when I scroll to the bottom here, we have a big zero. You have a zero.
Okay,
So,
all right.
if I, if,
Reward, yeah.
oh, I'm good, thanks.
Celebrate.
If I may, I'd like to just transfer these to paper before we move on in case I drop this in a puddle or something on the way home. So for HAP, and if you could just confirm with me, sir, HAP is 0,
Yes,
Mountain Road is 60,
yes,
demolition is 234, 612.
yes.
That will be forever known as the Counselor Sullivan number. 0 at Valley Arena. Code enforcement is at $51,200. Old Holyoke is at 0, but I am going to note the support for the program.
Okay, note that for all these programs.
Green and Fit is at 100. Bowdoin Village is at 68,640. Storefront is 0. Crozier Field is 0. Public park signs is 0. Susie is 0. Springdale pedestrian lighting is 0. And site amenities at Holyoke Farms is 0. Center City Pavilion is 0. Sidewalks is 200,000. Public art is 0. Micro Enterprise Spark is 0, and Best Retail Practices is 0. And then my only procedural question for you is on the Mountain Road, the recommendations from OCD and CAC have come as recommending loans. Does that continue to be the committee's recommendation, is to do that as a loan,
As opposed to a grant?
as opposed to a grant?
I would say so, but why don't we take a vote on that?
Make a motion.
Why don't you make a motion?
Yeah, make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that the Mountain Road be a loan, amount be considered a loan and not a grant.
A second, please?
Second.
Okay, on that, is there any discussion on that
I'm in
question?
favor without charging interest, all right?
Okay, on that motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we took a vote on that, Alicia, and that's passed 5-0. Okay, so that's a loan. That's the first half. Moving on. Well, on the public services, I haven't received a call or an email or a note on any of these. So that's, so I'm pretty much, probably with few exceptions, pretty much okay with it, but, I mean, there's one exception that jumps out at me, but we'll just go in, why don't we just go in in linear order here. Anybody want to make a motion?
Well, we'll start with the first item, Boys and Girls Club. I'd recommend $7,500.
Second.
Where's the extra 2,500 coming from?
I would take it from the Center City Boxing. The Center City Boxing program, they requested $41,800. The bulk of that money was to give the mentor volunteers, there are 8 of them, $100 a week. So it would be going to pay volunteers. And I just had a real problem with that, so did the rest of the CAC. And given, once again, the limited resources and everything else, we know what the Boys and Girls Club does. We know what the Holyoke YMCA does. We know what the rest of the programs do. It is a good program. It's an interesting program. It's having some success. The people that are running it are good, but it's just, just too much.
Okay, so on, I don't, I got a second for that too, so, on that motion, why don't we just go through it, Counselor Sullivan? What, on the
Which
motion?
is for
It's
75.
This is to move, this is to fund summer campships and apprenticeship program, 7,500.
Mhm.
And subtract 2,500 from the boxing coach mentor program at Center City Boxing.
Okay.
Counselor Sullivan? Yes, no?
Yes.
Counselor McGivern?
Yes.
Counselor Bartley votes no. Counselor Tallman?
Yes.
Counselor Roman?
Yes.
Okay. That passes. That's 7,500. And that one's, okay. Next.
Girls Inc. youth programs, I'd like to put 7,500 there.
Second.
Okay, and then, so you want to cut that by, well, put 7,500 there, okay.
Right, what they recommended by the OCD and CAC.
Okay, on the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, 7,500 there, all right.
Mr. Chairman,
Counselor Roman?
I make a motion to put $2,500 into Salvation Army's Bridging the Gap and deduct that from the boxing coach mentorship program.
Second for purpose of
Discussion.
Counselor Roman?
I have to agree with Counselor Sullivan on the, I think it's a great program, and so I'd like to notate that for the public record. I think that the boxing program they currently have, I know a lot of us went out to the Golden Gloves. We've seen the great work that all these boxing programs offer to the city. I just know that the Salvation Army and the great work that they do, so it's just a line item budget of where do I get it from, and I'd like to respect the OCD staff and CAC staff, and again, if we find money somewhere else to put the 2,500 back in, I'm sure we can, but
Okay,
I just want to ensure that that's funded.
all right. Counselor Sullivan, you all set? Okay, on the motion, all in favor? Aye.
No.
Okay. All right. Okay, anybody else?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion
Yes,
that we continue, if we can, if I can take up two items, the Greater Holyoke YMCA Alternatives for Youth at 7,500 and Homework House at 4,000.
house at 4,000. Why don't you do it one at a time here?
Yep, that's fine.
So,
Greater Holyoke YMCA at 7,500.
Okay, I'll second that. All right, on that motion to fund alternatives for youth, 7,500, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Where's your second one?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Mr. Chairman, yeah, if I could take up, make a motion to fund Homework House at the level of $4,000.
Is your second? No second.
I'm sorry, homework house at 4?
Yeah.
Second.
Okay, we got a second for that. Discussion? No? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I vote no.
I vote no.
Okay, but it sounds like it passed 3-2, so that's that. Okay, so that's 4,000 there.
Yeah, I make a motion to zero no funding for the Boy Scouts, despite the fact that I'm an Eagle Scout. They had money last year that they didn't spend. Kind of the same problem. They're stuck between cycles, but they didn't spend what they had last year. Right now, they're still struggling to get troops started in Holyoke. There's no guarantee that if they got the money, they'd be able to use them in time to spend them.
Okay, I'll second that, so. All right, on that motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
I'd like to make a motion on the therapeutic equestrian riding program. I'd like to make a motion of 1,800.
Second.
under discussion? Hearing none, on the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 1,800 for tech.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion for the Western Mass Elder Care Disabled Meals Program at 12,500, please.
Do I have a second for that?
I'll second that.
Okay, under discussion? Hearing none, on that motion, so it's to make Western Mass Elder Care 12,000, what now?
500?
12,500. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None, okay.
Make a motion, care center, working for the future, 5,000.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded, under discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No, okay.
Motion, employee link, 5,000.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded, under discussion, Counselor Sullivan?
This program's had very limited success. They supplied a jobs list that they were able to get. They're all low-paying jobs. A lot of them are at Subway, Burger King, these kind of jobs. I think the highest paying one I saw in the entire list was maybe $15. I think, do you have the numbers there, Alicia? The number of people that actually got jobs as a result of this program?
So, for FY15, we're currently in our reporting year. They have reported to us that they provided services to 39 clients. The CAC wanted to know, of those 39 clients, how many actually got jobs. And so, because sometimes a client is served, but they don't get a job right away. And so for July, they had 9, August 11, September they had 10, October 9, November 11, and then December 14. And their placements, for instance, in July, they had 5 placements at jobs that paid from $9 to $13 an hour. In August, they had 7 placements in jobs that ranged from $9 to $14 an hour. September, they had 3 placements with jobs $12 to $15.75 an hour. October, 3 placements of jobs $9 to $13.50 an hour. And then it goes from there. And looks like November and December, they had 5 job placements and then another 5 job placements. So their job placements versus their clients served there's a bit of a discrepancy, but again, because they offer services like resume writing and that sort of thing, not everyone that they report to us as having served will have gotten a job at that point.
I mean,
And that's what they specialize in, those sort of entry-level, mid-entry-level, lower-skilled positions.
yeah, I mean, are they meeting their goals?
Yes,
So they're meeting their goals,
yep.
so the jobs aren't the greatest, but at least they're doing what they said they would, so. But, but I see that OCD and CAC put them at 5,000. Be a significant cut from what they were awarded last year, so, yeah. Any other discussion on that? Not hearing none. So this would be to fund it at Employment Link at 5,000. On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Not opposed, okay.
To put the, make a motion to community education project, GED prep classes in Spanish at 5,000.
Second.
Okay, and that's in line with what everybody's going with here.
I'd like to discuss that a little bit too.
Council Sullivan, yeah, please.
Before you vote on this, the GED prep class in Spanish had 3 people graduate last year. I've talked to between 20 and 25 people in the Hispanic community about this program. Quite a few of them homeowners. They can't understand, if a person's got to get their GED in Spanish, how is it helping them get a job? You're going out looking for work, still not being able to speak English. You got your GED in Spanish, but you still can't speak English, that the money would be better spent in ESL programs and other things like that. And especially to spend this kind of money and only have 3 people graduate. So even in the Latino community, there wasn't this great commitment to this program as being a successful program. It was for 3 people.
Mr. Chairman?
Oh, Councilor Mon, sure.
I agree with Councilor Sullivan's sentiments, and again, this just goes to a larger conversation, and the council and I were talking about a lot of the individuals in the Latino community who need these services. Unfortunately, the hours of operation, it's a great program. Unfortunately, it's during the daytime when a lot of the people who need it are trying to work or working under the table. I know a lot of these guys are landscapers and women as well, or stay-at-home moms. They have appointments. So unfortunately, the hours don't even work out where they can access it. But I think to fund it at some level is admirable and will at least help. Even with, if it's 3 is better than none in my opinion. So that's why I do agree with the recommendation of 5.
Well, last year they did 3 with 10,000. So we're saying 5,000, so we're saying maybe 1, maybe 2.
Well, how many people were enrolled in the program?
The, for 2015, CEP reported to us, we had on our books three clients. And in fact, when they went back and they looked, it was actually, now we're at year-to-date, is 16. Let me just verify that on my year-to-date sheet. CEP. So we were able to confirm CEP GED class, we were able to confirm that 5, that by contract, they're supposed to serve 10 for this year. And according to our records, by the folks that we were able to confirm as being HUD eligible, they've served 5. They do not administer the tests at CEP, and I think that's an important point that you should know, is they don't administer the tests. The tests are only administered in certain geographic areas and at certain test sites. And so they provide the prep class. Whether or not a client comes back and says, I've passed, they may not know. What they will know is if a client has failed a particular section. So there's like 5 sections to the high set. And so if a client goes and passes all but math, they may be back to CEP to take the math portion. The other piece, the CAC was particularly concerned about having a GED in Spanish for the reasons that Councilor Sullivan had outlined. And my understanding of CEP's Spanish-only classes is you have to meet their criteria to access Spanish. So you have to have come from a Spanish-speaking country and not had any English language training at all. It seems, I may not be correct on this. I think I'll just stop there because I don't want to misspeak about the CEP program. But it's important to know that they don't administer the test. They simply offer the training.
Okay, so we have that on the table for 5,000. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really sound like it's a particularly effective, and if we're gonna fund it, I would say we should either fund it like they had last year, at least get something going on, or not fund it, but But that's me, so, we will, maybe we'll do a roll call on this one. Counselor Sullivan?
No.
Is there other discussion? I don't want anybody, okay. Counselor Sullivan?
No.
Counselor McGivern?
Yes.
Counselor Bartley votes no. Counselor Tomlin?
Yes.
Counselor Aman?
Yes.
Okay, so it's 5,000 for GED prep class in Spanish. Anybody else? We're getting there.
For Enlace de Familias, I'd like to recommend $25,000.
Second.
Okay, under discussion, Counselor Sullivan, Counselor Aman, anybody?
I do.
Counselor Aman?
This constituent, and again, just for full transparency purposes, I did work at Enlace in the past, over a year and a half ago, and I've seen both firsthand the effects and the great program that the Nurturing Fathers program that Betty and Roy Lichtenstein run at Enlace, and I think that funding it at this level is great. They are in the process of actually currently right now, they have their Nurturing Fathers program for this year's funding in process right now. They have about 15, 20 guys enrolled, and it's a great program. I agree with Councilor Sullivan's sentiments, and I think that this is a good investment. They have a good track record within the city of doing great programs with Nurturing Fathers, and I think that this is a win-win for the city.
Okay. I'm sorry, Counselor Sullivan?
Yeah, question. And I understand it's a good program. I'm looking at last year awarded 15,000 and the OCD didn't put anything in it. Can I ask you why, the reason behind that?
Certainly. The Nurturing Fathers program has not expended any of their CDBG funds that they were allocated last year, and they've not reported as serving any clients. It's my understanding that the program is going to be starting, I was going to say in March, but now we're in March, sometime soon, and that they have been recruiting for the classes. Because the money hadn't been spent and we don't know, I understand Enlace is a great program, or a great agency. I understand that this has been a successful program, but we've never funded it with CDBG. And so because we didn't have any kind of track record to go on, and because the money hadn't been expended, and again, I'm always thinking that spending rate that we get tested on, we recommended holding off for 1 year.
Okay.
Counselor Aman?
Thank you.
And just to clarify to my colleagues, because I asked Betty the same question when the recommendations come out, I've been following this process. She, CFCE, which is the funding source before this class started, that's a state grant. They had to expend that money and use that first. But Betty showed me emails to both Alicia and Rory notifying them of that fact, that this class that started this, well, at the end of February, beginning of March, they have in this funding round will be the CBDG funds from this year, and Betty's been very transparent from that from the beginning.
Okay, I thought that was pretty helpful. All right, so you don't make an amendment, do you, Peter?
Yeah, can I do that? I'll make an amendment to make it 15,000.
I'll second that. So the amended motion is going to be before us first. And I second it only because, you know, this is what they awarded last year. They haven't spent it, but now, so now they'll have $15,000, or $30,000 more than they had, which is a pretty good sum. It allows us a little more flexibility. I could, and by the way, you can still make motions to, if the GED prep class in Spanish, if you want to move that to Enlace to bolster that, that's an option as well. So that there's, I think it gives us a little more flexibility, especially in light of the fact that they haven't. I know, Councilor Aman, you looked into it, and that's great. We really appreciate what Betty does down there, but I think they need to get a track record with CDBG first before we start really going too far. That's me.
No discussion.
Oh, Councilor Aman.
When is your reporting due for CBDG? Am I correct in the knowledge that I got from both the mayor and Betty that you report in? When do you report to the government based off of this funding cycle?
The yearly funding cycles run from July 1st to June 30th. So the contracts they expire on June 30th, and then that's it. We report to HUD on a monthly basis. And so if HUD sees that there's no activities or no draws for a particular agency or activity, they're contacting us saying what's going on, what's happening, do we, is there a problem? And so we report monthly. Agencies are supposed to be reporting monthly, and those contracts do run from July to June. And so, yes, the funding will be there until June 30th, but when an agency doesn't draw, regardless for whatever the reasons are, maybe they have other funding sources that tell them they have to draw first, it raises concerns, because what happens is, if we had 10 agencies that weren't drawing until March, we're not going to meet our obligations to HUD. And so,
my follow-up question is, am I correct, though, in the knowledge that Betty did reach out to you and Rory Casey and informed you of that fact? Because I would like to just, again, for transparency's sake, that this funder was proactive in that, and so her track record isn't that she hasn't, she did reach out, correct?
she was at the CAC meetings and let us know about her other funding and that the program will be starting in March. She was at at the 2 CAC meetings. My staff we have a compliance person, and so they've been in contact with all of our agencies that haven't been moving, but we did see Betty face-to-face at the CAC meetings that we had in February. It really is a protection mechanism that we have built in for the city of Holyoke, because if the money's not going out the door on a timely basis, we won't get it. And so we try to prevent these sort of lagging projects, because we don't want to jeopardize all of our other agencies and our other projects. And just so you know, we report monthly to HUD, so our agencies report monthly, but we're also having these same conversations with the city departments. We have some city departments that, we have to keep on, like, nudging them a little bit, so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so this is, the motion is to fund it at $15,000, which is level funding, so we'll go through a roll. Councilor Roman?
No.
Councilor Tallman?
Yes.
Councilor Bartley, yes. Councilor McGivern?
Yes.
Councilor Sullivan?
No.
Okay, looks like that's 3-2, yes. Okay. Okay.
I'll make a motion, HAP Resident Leadership Program, 5,000.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to fund the HAP Resident Leadership Program at $5,000. Under discussion, anyone?
Mr. Chairman?
Councilor Roman?
This is another program I was able to meet with Madi Glid, who's the new director who's running that, and they reached out to me proactively about this. And I know they had a class last year that went through that had amazing residents. They're actually able to travel on a national level, and they're actually in the recruitment cycle, even though they're not on the CBDG money list for this fiscal year, that they're currently recruiting for residents, and I know they have about 5 or 6 enrolled, so it does have a track record of working in the city of Holyoke, and I think that this would be a great investment, and so I just wanted to state that for the record.
Thank you. Anyone else? Hearing none. On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 5,000 in Resident Leadership Program. Alicia? Alicia, where are we with our total at this point? $86,500. Thank you. Okay, moving on.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to fund Providence Ministries Food Works at Kate's Kitchen program at $20,000, please.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, fund Food Works at Kate's Kitchen for $20,000. Under discussion, anyone? Hearing none. On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, $20,000 for Kate's Kitchen.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we fund United Way of Pioneer Valley, the Thrive to Success program at $0.
Second.
Which is $0 which is recommended across the board. Under discussion, anyone? Okay, on the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now we're into Public Services, Homeless Domestic Violence section.
I'd like to make a motion on Providence Ministries for the Needy, both Loretto House and Margaret's Pantry at 17,000.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to kind of split the baby there a little bit between OCB and Mayor and then CAC. I see that. Councilor Tallman, on discussion?
Yeah, I just think both worthwhile programs. I know last year they were awarded $14,000 each one, and I think they're well worthwhile, and I think today we're seeing more people in need than last year that are in need of this assistance that the Providence Ministries does give out.
Oh, Councilor Moroma.
And I'd like to just state for the record, I know that the Providence Ministries, both the residents of Loretto House, Karen, who's the executive director, reached out to advocate for the full amount, but I agree with my colleague. I think that they've done a great job. This is splitting the baby, as you said, Mr. Chairman, but I think that this is a great compromise and a win.
Okay, we have a motion to fund Loretto House and Marcus Pantry at $17,000. Hearing no further discussion on that motion. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed. So 17, Alicia, for Loretto, 17 for Margaret's. What do we got for balance now, Alicia?
I'd like to make a motion on women's shelter, domestic violence intervention at 15,000.
Second.
Okay, motion made, seconded to go with the OCD recommendation of $15,000 for Women's Shelter Compañeros for domestic violence intervention. Under discussion, anyone?
Yeah, it's a great program, and I've been in contact with their director, looking for at least full funding, what they were awarded last year, and I'd actually given a little bit more, 500 more. Awarded 14.5 last year, so I think 15,000 going with the OCD is a good amount.
Yeah, Alicia, why did OCD want to increase that a little bit?
Because when we went through the allocations and then went through them again, we had a little bit of extra money, and knowing the numbers of domestic violence that we're seeing in the city, they do report, they do serve. We thought the 500 would be appropriate there.
Thank you. And of course, you know, we were here, was it last year, Joe?
I
Was it the year
believe so.
before? Okay, well, all right, well, last year, it was this body that put it back in, okay, because that got zeroed.
Right.
Okay? So it was this body that put it back in, and we heard from, I could have sworn it was the year before, but it doesn't matter. It was, boy, did I get a lot of calls on that. A lot of calls, and we're talking from the executive director to constituents. So I certainly heard firsthand the importance of it, and I'm in favor of the motion on the floor.
I think last year, Mr. Chairman, it was 2 years ago, it was zero, and we fought to get it back to funding. And last year it was a similar fight. But one of the things that we did learn last year was when you break down this program, we know the need, we understand the numbers, as Alicia said, but the bang for the dollars that they spend, the bang they get out of their overall program, it's incredible. It just about all goes back into the needed person's services, and I think that's a tribute to how the women's shelter's been run over the years.
It really is, and again, I mean, so Holyoke's like everywhere else. We got our problems, but I think Holyoke, more than a lot of communities, we at least face our problems and try to deal with it. So, okay, on the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so Alicia, that's gonna be 15,000 for Women's Shelter Compañeros, okay? 17.5. Well, I'm gonna make a motion, because I don't know if anybody else is gonna do it. I'm gonna make a motion for community policing to be 0.
Second.
So under discussion on that one, we had last year, it was an excellent discussion. I did not support it at the committee level, but the Ward 4 counselor really advocated for it. Even though I didn't support it, I certainly respected her opinion. Then at full city council, I certainly voted for it there. So, but finding out what we've found out now, it's, the reality is, it's such a limited use of policemen and it's so sporadic. It's like walking down the street once a month and paying overtime to boot. Could be community policing, we all admire, we respect it, we see it, but I don't think that we're really getting much bang for the buck. I mean, we gave it a try. I don't know if we got really any benefits for it. Therefore, I think we should zero it out and maybe use and allocate the 10,000 somewhere else. I don't really have a thought as to where it should be allocated, but I think we should. I think we gave it a shot with this, a fair shot. But I just think we should look elsewhere to spend these monies. Councilor Sullivan?
Okay, just so everybody knows what's happening here, if they got the full 50,000 they requested, that would allow 2 officers to walk a beat in Ward 1 or Ward 2 for 4 hours twice a month. And that's if they got all of their money. They'd walk that beat for 4 hours twice a month. So even at full funding, I agree with Councilor Bartley, it's not an effective program. We've got a police budget of 12.1 million. If we've got, whether it's 10,000 or 50,000, we ought to be looking at these other programs like Laredo House and LaSalle and things like that as the best bang for our buck. If we're not doing it with $12 million, another 10,000 isn't going to help it.
Councilor Mann?
I agree with both Councilor Sullivan and Councilor Bartley. Again, as we were talking, down in South Holyoke or in Churchill, where the community policing even began, as you've seen, the Churchill crime has gone up. That's where a lot of our shootings unfortunately occur, and I completely agree with Councilor Bartley. It's not that I'm against policing or anything to that matter, but exactly what Councilor Sullivan said. I think that if we truly need, instead of community policing, we need community building, and I think allocating this money towards other programs is exactly the best bang for our buck, and I completely agree and support Councilor Bartley's motion and want to have his back as chairman, but also as the man with the guts to make the motion, so I completely am in support.
Councilor McGivern?
I respectfully disagree. I'm a big believer in community policing. Community policing isn't a program that is totally funded by block grant monies or by any block grant. Community policing is a concept, and it's what our current chief of police and what our police department attempts to do in many different forms of their police work itself. I see whether it's the 50,000 or 10,000, whatever money we can give them as a supplement to what they're trying to do, and that's to get our police officers into the community. We know the crime that Councilor Roman was talking about is gang related, and we know the police department puts their lives at risk fighting that type of crime on a daily basis. But community policing is trying to involve the community into not being afraid to say there's crime in their neighborhood, not being afraid of a police officer because they get to see them face to face, not being afraid of the idea that the Holyoke Police Department is there to fight crime, but is actually there to protect them and not be afraid to be part of that protection themselves by as citizens doing what they can. It goes far beyond that, but it's a concept that has been mistaken over the years. Giving the police department a little extra money, I'm in favor of, because I know every dollar we give them will go a long way.
Councilor Mann?
Yes, and I respectfully disagree with my colleague, and I think that overall, when we're talking about budgetary issues and items like that, I respect that, and I think that the police department, if we're able to address some of the structural deficits or some of the issues, we surely can find that. But I agree in that to make a neighborhood safer, regardless if you're a gang member or related, it's investing in things that we're investing in, like streets and sidewalks and parks and programs that address the root issue of the cause. And for me, again, where I respectfully disagree and where I hear from the neighbors and the residents, the program can do better, and then we have to address and tackle that. And I've met with the chief, and we've talked about those areas where we can make it better than just a tent and a parked car, but actually getting in, knocking on doors, building up tenant associations, neighborhood associations, and letting the neighbors take the leadership, working with the police department, and not the other way around. So I respectfully disagree.
Any further discussion on that?
A lot of respect going around here.
That's the way it should be. It should be respectful. So, I can't take nothing personal here. That's for sure. You can't do it that way. It's all, Listen, I made my point, so Counselor Sullivan made some great points, which I agree with all of them, so, all right, on this motion, Counselor Sullivan? Yea or nay? This is put at 0.
Yay.
Okay. Counselor McGivern?
No.
Counselor Bartley votes yes. Counselor Tallman?
No.
Counselor Roman?
Yes.
Okay, passes 3-2.
Make a,
Where are we with the numbers, Alicia? Okay, thank you.
motion to Holyoke Housing Authority home buyer education at 3,000.
Yeah, I'll second that. Under discussion? Hearing none, Counselor Sullivan? No? Okay, on the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 3,000, okay. So that puts us at 14.5.
Make a motion for Providence Ministries for the needy, the Holyoke Career Closet. I believe that's at the Holyoke Community College. Is that true? At 5,000.
I'll second that for discussion.
Under discussion, Counselor Tallman?
Yeah, I know the program. I've donated things up there. There's something in the paper just at the business outlook, I think, about, people that are looking for jobs and positions, and some people don't have the professional clothing or suits or whatever. And I believe this must be to help run the program up there, maybe for salaries or whatever. There's, I think for anybody that is looking for a job, having an interview, they have to have the right clothing and right appearance, and this is really what this program is all about, and I think it's beneficial.
Counselor McGee, do you read?
We're, if I could.
Yeah, please.
We're promoting education on all fronts and at all levels of trying to get people educated, to get people employed, to get people for all the right reasons. I just realized, I walked by this part of the college. I was out of training one day and I looked in and I was totally amazed at the amount of clothing that was there. I guess Councilor Tallman must have donated quite a bit. But it looked and appeared to me, and Peter just, I think, described it better than I can, that I understood immediately what the need was, and it looked like they were doing a great service and a successful, type of service. And I think if LCD says it's a worthy for the $5,000, I can agree with that.
Counselor Sullivan?
When we went through the committee with it, we had pretty much given Providence Ministry everything they asked for and more, which is what we're doing again. The Career Closet we had not funded in the past. It was, as everybody said, it's a successful program. They're doing very well on donations right now. And, we just needed money to put into other programs.
5,000.
And I don't know if we've got a motion on the floor. I'd amend it. I mean, I think we've got to go back to Enlace and try and put as much money back into that as we can.
Okay, so you don't want to change this number in Holyoke Career Closet. You just want to move it to the last. Alicia, why did OCD want to pay funded at 5,000?
This program has never actually applied to CDBG funding before. Providence Ministries has an excellent track record with us, and again, with limited resources, we thought maybe providing them with a small infusion would get the program off the ground, and see if they could make it work with 5,000.
Okay. Oh, Councilor Munn, yeah.
Just to piggyback off of what Alicia was saying, and again, Karen kind of walked me through this program right now. It's all volunteer run. They give out amazing clothes to those people who need it for job interviews, so on and so forth. And it has a good track record already as a program, and this funding would just help them get in order and possibly expand and touch more Holyoke residents' lives that need it. And I believe it's currently housed at HCC, correct? So I think that's amazing from what they described. So I would be in support of the 5,000 if that's on the table. I'm not sure.
It is. I would just say that, if we still had community policing in there would be no $5,000 for this program. So let's just, it would have been much less likely. Mm-hmm. So there's that. And that's kind of why this is stuff that goes directly back into our community. I think really Councilor Sullivan just really nailed it with our our budget is so huge in certain areas. If the focus was really zooming in on that one particular area, you know, I think we would see a lot bigger bang in that, you know, the community policing, which we all want, but to say $10,000, come on, guys, come on, let's be realistic. So, anyway, on the motion, to put 5,000 for the Holyoke Career Closet, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay, 4-1. All right, so, 5,000. So that puts us at $9,500. So we've gone through the whole list, and we still have $9,500 left. If you want to put it back into community policing, if you want to put it somewhere else,
Make a motion, we put it to Enlace Familias.
Second.
okay, to put the whole thing to Enlace Nurturing Fathers.
Can I just ask, what's the total in Enlace at the moment?
15, yeah, and that was originally, that motion was for 25,000, but then it was amended by Councilor Tomlin to go to 15,000, that passed 3-2.
That would bring the total to 24.5. I tell you,
So we're taking the 10,000 from community policing and putting it in Enlace?
Well, I mean, if in fact we pass that, so we've kind of gone down this road once, with them, but, I'll just say in a discussion, there were a couple, I mean, Enlace was awarded 15,000 last year. They didn't spend it, now they're getting another $15,000, but we heard the reason why, but my opinion is let's give them a track record, and let's take the other, you know, the balance of it to try to support some of these other wonderful programs at level funding. That would be, I would start, I mean, some of these great programs that we you know, really want to, you know, be the Girls Inc. or the Y or
Mr. Chairman?
well, I mean, I was, sure, I mean, that's another, that wasn't funded last year, but there would be an opportunity. I'm sorry, Councilor Roman.
No, I'm going to offer a friendly amendment to actually reduce the amount to about, for 4,500 to split the hair so we can allocate money other places. But that would be my friendly amendment. But under the discussion portion, I'd just like to clarify again, Enlace is currently right now spending the money. They have about 15, 20 people. Their Nurturing Fathers program right now, this is going to be for the CBDG funding.
I don't want to split hairs, but we have not received any invoices as of today from Enlace. I understand they're recruiting, but they have not drawn the funds. So they have until June 30th. That's when the contract runs.
And with all due respect, Alicia, this funding, this cycle right now of Nurturing Fathers program, Enlace de Familias, is going for the CBDG funding. And again, the notion that whether they drew the funds or not, I saw the emails to Rory and you before February stating, hey, the first round of funding is going to be, you know, and I spoke with Betty in person. This class right now that's going to start, this class is the money that they're going to pull from the CBDG funding. So I just want to dispel that rumor that they're not using the money. This class right now that's starting is going to be the money they're going to pull for CBDG. That you might get it at the end of March for April 1st, but this class that's starting is going to be that money.
We're always, and I don't mean to be disrespectful in any way, but we're always cautious about the terminology we use, because in the event that an agency doesn't submit clients that are HUD eligible, or they don't get their paperwork in, they don't get their money. So we don't consider them drawn. It's a technicality in the office. We don't consider them drawn and performing until we have that data. They may be recruiting. We have other agencies that are out recruiting as well. But until an agency has submitted the client intake forms, has submitted their monthly monitoring, and submitted an invoice, we consider them not having drawn the funds. And I totally understand that they may be recruiting, but we're also coming to the end of the year. So that's my only concern. And again, it's not anything to do with Enlace. It's a cumulative effect across the board if we had agencies that all decided to wait until the end of the fiscal year to draw funds. And that's the only concern with it, is if everyone said, you know what, we're going to use your funding last, it's a real issue for the city. So we try to push hard.
And again, I agree, Mr. Chairman, Lasse has a track record of over 25 years doing this program with dads. And on average, it's like 15 to 25 fathers who are HUD eligible. Most of the guys formerly incarcerated, low income. There is that track record, or else they wouldn't have qualified for the funding last year when they applied for it. So I just, again, want to be clear, and again, my amendment, if anyone would back it, is to lower that amount so we can dispense some more money elsewhere. I'd say 4,000 would be my amendment more towards Enlace.
I'd like to say one more thing about Enlace.
Counselor Sullivan?
These men that are in this program, as I say, you know, these are all guys that are struggling now to not have their kids grow up under the same circumstances that they grew up under. And in Holyoke, the proportion of people in this situation is much greater than anywhere else in the state. It's a huge problem in Holyoke. I know, you know, through my own work, through my involvement in La Liga Latina softball, how prevalent this is in Holyoke. And when the program Betty's running, I have all the confidence in the world in her that not only isn't she going to be a problem for the funding for CBDG going forward, also that the money will be spent well going into fiscal 16.
Okay, what I'll do, basically, I'll second Counselor Oman's amendment to reduce that from 9,500 to 4,000. So that motion is before us now. So so we've got a 9,500, just to make it clear, $9,500 balance. The motion now is made and seconded to reduce that by 4,000 and allocate that 4,000 to nurturing fathers under Enlace de Familias. So we've kind of gone around at that. We'll just I don't know where we are here, but on that motion, I'm gonna just do a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
I heard it, but let's-
You
yeah,
said it too,
I think I got it,
You
but
got it?
let's
Yeah.
just. I think it was in favor. Let's just make sure. Counselor Sullivan?
Yes.
Counselor McGivern?
No.
Counselor Bartley, yes. Counselor Tallman?
No.
Counselor Juan?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so it did pass 3-2. Okay,
19,000 for Enlace.
so 19,000.
Yes.
19,000. So that leaves with a balance of 5,000. And I noticed there's one program we zeroed out.
I believe it's 5,500.
5,500, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to put 5,500 in community policing.
Second.
That motion made and seconded. Under discussion?
I just think it's money that could be spent. I think community policing under this chief and in the city is an important program that to utilize to get people aware that you know, the police are part of them. You know, I mean, to get the residents out there that to trust the police, and as far as they have the trucks out there and the tents and the information, the books for kids. Sometimes walking the beats. I think it's helpful in this community.
Pretty limited, though.
Yeah, but they do it. I've seen them out there doing it. Yeah. I think it's helpful. I see people around there when they're out there, especially when they go out when there's an area. I think they're on Appleton and Elm Street there last year when that problem was that building took over.
Sure.
And they were there for about a week or different days there.
Counselor Juan?
Yeah, this, I want to just, again, this money won't eliminate the community policing program that Chief Nicewingers has going on. But again, just to piggyback off what Councilor Sullivan said earlier, the full amount of 50,000 would be 4 hours in Ward 1 and 2, 2 times a month. At 5,500, what is that, half hour, 20 minutes? It won't add up to a truly amountable change or impact in these lower wards. Whereas I believe, when I'm going to make the motion after this, putting 5,500 maybe even back into boxing will be a direct bang for the buck, getting guys and girls off the street into a program that can actually help them get off the street. So that's just my sentiment, and I just want to share that with all due respect.
Counselor Sullivan?
Yeah. I don't want to beat a dead horse here. Number one, remember, this program can't buy books. It can't set up tents. It can't do it. it can only be used to fund 2 guys walking a beat for 4 hours. That's it. All right, so now at $5,000, they can do that twice a year. That's ridiculous. They've got a $12.1 million budget. Not to get too, but the programs, the boxing program's fine, but the Holyoke YMCA Alternatives for Youth and the Boys and Girls Club Summer Camperships, those get the kids out of the bad areas, out of the wards, and doing something positive.
Councilor McGivern?
I'm going to repeat myself. I'm a big fan of community policing. This is a lot more than just 2 guys walking the beat. This is a concept that the Holyoke Police Department needs to follow and will continue to follow despite what types of revenue we can head their way. The city is in dire shape in terms of the budget. We understand that. You can call it structural deficits, you can call it lack of revenue, you can call it a lot of things. But to help out a city department with $10,000 or a little bit more, to me, is a big bang in terms of what we should be doing, community policing. I'm a big fan of community policing. I've listened to everything I've heard this evening. I haven't disagreed with it. Think we got to rethink our thought process and look into what community policing really is and get them some money.
Councilor Tallman?
Yeah, I just want to ask Alicia, proposed 16,000. You give us a reason why?
We recognize that 16,000 may not go far, but we also recognize the effect of having community police officers on the ground. We're getting the data back in on where they're doing their beats, what the hours are, and felt like there was a value. It's a community development, a neighborhood revitalization value to it. I totally understand the overall police budget and how large it is, but it was a proposal that was made, and when it's weighed against some of the other proposals and the value that it provides the community, we felt like there was a value there. And for residents in neighborhoods where there is high crime, and we have residents and families who are literally trapped in some of these buildings, there is a lifeline there. And so we felt like in the office that there was a value to it.
Councilor Mann?
So 2 things around that. I completely agree with the spirit of community policing and the spirit of it, but again, I would go back to there's this whole movement of creating neighborhood associations and building up the neighbors and building up neighborhood watches and the neighbors and residents taking ownership versus a police force and state. And to piggyback off of what Alicia's saying, you're absolutely right. There are residents, and I know we've talked to them. I've been down there. I live in a building where it's a hot spot. It's identified. I met with the police department. It is a hot spot. But again, our neighbors want something more, and I think that looking down the road, we have to start addressing building up the neighborhoods with community and neighborhood associations and not necessarily community policing, but the spirit of what the police department does will continue despite this funding.
Okay. We'll just go through a vote. So a motion made a second to fund community policing at 5,500. Councilor Oman?
No.
Councilor Tallman?
Yes.
Councilor Bartley votes no. Councilor McGivern?
Yes.
Councilor Sullivan?
No.
Motion fails.
Make a motion to take $2,500 from Bridging the Gap and put it into community policing.
Second.
Okay, that's for Salvation Army, Bridging the Gap. That motion's on the floor. On discussion? Hearing none. On the motion, Councilor Sullivan?
No.
Councilor McGivern?
Yes.
Councilor Bartley votes no. Councilor Tallman?
Yes.
Councilor Roman?
No.
Motion fails.
Alicia, how much do we have left?
5,500.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that $5,000 be allocated to Center City Boxing for the boxing coach mentorship program.
I'll second that. On discussion?
Make an amendment to delete $5,000 from the Center City Boxing Mentor, which is already at 0, right?
We've already got them at 0.
0, yeah.
Once again, Guys, remember, this is,
Well, I got a proposed motion there, so,
I thought it was under discussion.
well, I'm just waiting to hear a second on that proposed motion to delete it. I don't hear a second, motion fails. Counselor Sullivan?
Okay, so I can make a new motion?
You can do whatever you want. You can, we're in discussion now, because Counselor Roman made a motion to fund that, $5,000. I seconded it, so you can, amend that, or you can make a discussion under it, so you tell me.
Okay, well, the discussion is the same. What the money's to be used for in the description of the program is to give a stipend to the volunteers of $100 a week per person, eight mentors. I just still have a problem, the money's not going, I think in the right direction. It's going towards volunteers, giving them a stipend. They're not volunteers.
Yeah, I hear you on that. It's just, to me, that, a $100 stipend doesn't make you a paid employee either, where you're gonna get a W-2 at the end of the year, so, to me, it's something that's kind of new. OCD recommended it at 5,000. The mayor recommended it at 5,000. So I'm gonna support it, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, so on that motion, we'll just go through it. Counselor Sullivan?
No.
Counselor McGivern?
No.
Counselor Bartley votes yes. Counselor Tallman?
No.
Counselor Roman?
Yes.
Okay, motion fails. Okay, so we're still at 5,500. We gotta put 5,500 somewhere.
Make a motion to delete $5,000 from Community Education Project Prep Class in Spanish and to transfer that money to community policing.
Not hearing a second, motion fails.
Make a motion to delete $5,000 from the Chamber Centennial Foundation Employment Link and transfer that money to community policing.
Second.
Okay, let's see. Motion is made and seconded. Under discussion?
Mr. Chairman, everybody keeps talking about the budget of the police department as being the $12 million that we know it is, which goes far beyond what community policing is. Every program here has their own budget, right? Mm-hmm. Every program here is in existence. They're not the umbrellas of whether it be Providence Ministries or Enlace or Holyoke Housing Authority have their own budgets. The Holyoke Housing Authority budget is a lot bigger than the police department budget. The issue here is community policing. We heard it from Alicia. I believe in it. I mean, I'm not saying by voting against it you don't believe in community policing, but across the country, people are trying to solve a problem that is causing a lot of pain, is causing a lot of tragedy. And Holyoke has done a good job at community policing. Yeah. And to send a little bit of money there, even if it's a token amount of money from block grant monies used to pay for a third of the police department, we're just asking to send a little token to help them keep this going. I'm asking personally, because I've listened to all the arguments tonight and I've voted in favor of a lot of them. I've seconded a lot of them. I'm asking for something for community policing. It's a personal plea.
Counselor Roman?
And with all due respect to my colleagues, you don't do that by cutting from an employment fund that helps people get, whether it's low-wage jobs or any jobs. The national average and statistics show that the best way to decrease crime is through employment, and by cutting the $5,000 from that line item won't help or hurt that cause. It's a moot point, but to pull from that fund of all of them is not the right way to go. Getting jobs, whether it's Subway, McDonald's, those are jobs, decrease crime. So I agree, and in the sake and the spirit, once this motion passes, I will, again, fold to the gentleman and agree to put the rest of the $5,500 into the community policing so we can move on and get into the spirit of, getting together and getting past this point. So I'm just making that public to everyone. So
I think I'd probably be I voted against again, I want to make it clear, it's not about the 12 million. Okay, so let me make that super duper clear. I also made it clear that I support community policing 100%, and I know I speak for everybody here. My point is, this is throwing a speck of dust against a building, expecting it to fall down. So that's my analogy to this. So,
Would have worked at the Armory. Mr. Chairman, I withdraw my motion.
Okay.
And make a motion to put the $5,500 into community
Second.
precinct.
Second.
okay, on the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, here, okay. Alicia, you got the 5,500? Okay,
Mr. Chairman, if I could just have a personal privilege real quick.
real quick.
I don't know if Alicia has to do anything while I'm doing this real quick.
Well, she's gotta run through the numbers, that's all.
I'm the YMCA. I may have a conflict of interest. When I read it, I didn't think I did. Tonight, I saw something as the motion was made. If you notice, I said nothing during discussion. It was a voice vote. I actually didn't vote. But I want to declare that I have either a perception or a possible conflict of interest, which I will explore in detail before next Tuesday.
okay,
I just wanted to know for the record, I didn't vote or participate this evening.
So duly noted. So Ryan, when we're making the minutes, we'll note that Counselor McGivern did not vote and did not participate in discussion relative to the Greater Holyoke YMCA. Okay, Alicia?
Well, can I
Counselor Sullivan, yes.
I have one more motion to try here. I'd like to make a motion that we reduce the GED prep to $2,500 and put that money into the Boys and Girls Club Summer Campership and Apprentice Program.
Where are you? Okay, that's the community education project that we have at 5,000. And you want to move that to where?
To Boys Club Summer Camperships.
Boys Club Summer Camperships, which we have at,
Top of the issue, we have at 7,500 to move that to 10,000.
okay, we have at 7,500. Okay. Okay, well, you can make a motion, so I don't have a second, that motion fails. Okay, Alicia? Alicia, is your mic on? Would you speak into it, please? Thank you.
Sorry. Salvation Army, 2,500. Therapeutic Equestrian, 1,800. Western Mass Elder Care, 12,500. Care Center Working for the Future, 5,000. Chamber Employment Link, 5,000. GED Prep Class, 5,000. Enlace Nurturing Fathers, 19,000. HAP Resident Leadership Program, 5,000. Food Works at Kate's Kitchen, 20,000. United Way of Pioneer Valley, 0. Laredo House, 17,000. Margaret's Pantry, 17,000. Domestic Violence Intervention with Women's Shelter, 15,000. Police Department, Community Policing, 5,500. Homebuyer Education, 3,000. And Holyoke Career Closet, 5,000.
Okay, that's right. Now, Alicia, we need to make a vote on the admin as well?
Yes, that would be good. The OCD proposed budget is in the back of your book. We have $219,831 available, and we've allocated $215,500.
Motion to recommend the 215.5.
Second.
On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Alicia, what else?
Oh.
Okay, I think, now, I think.
About the home money, no? You don't do that?
Make a recommendation that we accept the home money.
Oh,
Mr. Chairman, sorry.
Just hold on, Councilman McGivern. Just,
I'm holding.
okay, yeah, because we didn't get to the last page. Councilman McGivern, you want to renew your motion, please?
I was making a motion that we recommend that the city of Holyoke accept our portion of the home money.
Second.
On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And can I get one overall motion, please?
Motion made, second that we, I'm sorry, motion made, I can't second my own motion.
Well-
That we accept the block grant monies for 2016. The total block grant is $3,784,729 with our recommendations.
So this is for, to approve the FY17 CDBG block grant funds with our recommendations. Hearing no further discussion on the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have approved that. One final motion should do it.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Thank Alicia for her patience.
Thank you so much, Alicia.
On the motion to adjourn, all in favor? We
Aye.
are adjourned, we are adjourned, thank you.